Great job. Absolutely.
I'm just looking around because we've got so many people. Ali, Doogie, are you okay to hang on? Because just everyone on the live feed, the feed will go off at 5:55, just where we are now. It'll come back on at 6 p.m. It's maybe stopped already. If you're on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, it'll come back on at 6 p.m. and we've got the run of other guests. So still got a lot to go. But we, as I said before, we've got Coisty and Doogie Vipont here. Mark, you've got the guys, you've got Doogie and Coisty, just from their efforts, obviously, for World in a Day. There's so much conversation, so many stories, adventures. I think we've got to suggest to these guys that they come and maybe do the cliff jumping as well.
Absolutely. I mean, I think you do need to run the maths on that one because I don't know. I mean, you're going to end up jumping. I don't know how it is. Rob was brainstorming this earlier, but you're going to end up jumping in 200 times or something silly unless you have an absolute army. It's going to be like lemmings jumping off the cliff, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. No, guys, we've got this plan to North Berwick or wherever we can do it to jump a mile. So we're going to get as many people as we can off the cliffs. I do quite a lot of coasting down in the coast here. So we're going to work that out. We've got a team of guys in Dunbar who can set it up. It was Davy Jiv's idea. Davy, Captain of Edinburgh. It's his idea. He asked me to set it up, to take up coasting. Let's get a squad of group. Let's make an event out of it. What can we do? How can we jump a mile? So we'll do the maths. We'll sort it out. If we can do it before the end of Doddy Aid, we'll be absolutely delighted. But we'll see how we get on with that.
I've been watching a lot of your stuff on Twitter, Nash, and I know that you do these sort of cliff jumps and all that, and you're budgie smugglers. You're off your head, man. It's cold this time of the year.
It's cold, but 9:30 tomorrow morning, Portobello Beach. That's where I'll be.
Is that right?
9:30 tomorrow. Yep, there's a group meeting. Hopefully there'll be some studs there, some Doddy Aiders, and if there's anyone in Edinburgh with sore legs and bums, we'll be in the cold water at 9:30 tomorrow morning. So
how cold is it, Nash? I'll tell you. When I did a few years back, I did a cycle. What a wonderful cycle I did, mate. I did the Outer Hebrides. And it was magic. We did it from Castle Bay and Barra, went all the way up to the Butt of Lewis. But I remember we went in the water in Harris. You know, the beaches in Harris are lovely. And honestly, God, I mean, I swear, I promise you, I didn't see my willy for about 3 weeks, man. It was absolutely freezing, right? Before anybody gets any ideas, I struggle to see it at the best of times, but it officially went out of vision for about 3 weeks, man. It was freezing. So how cold is Portobello, Nashi?
It's cold enough you probably wouldn't see it for about a year. I don't know what will be about 6 degrees, 6 degrees. It's cold. You know, it's a challenge. It's there. We're not in there swimming around. You're in there with your pals, your friends. You get it done, you get out, and it's all about the chat afterwards. It's all about getting the uncomfortable thing done. But no, that's it's certainly it plays havoc with your private parts, doesn't it, Ali?
Oh, I must admit, when we go to Portugal a lot, Nashi and Doogie, and I love it. I'm in the water every day, absolutely every day. But then, clearly stating the obvious, it is of a different temperature over there. So I know which one I prefer.
So Nashi, can you wear a wetsuit if you're doing the cliff jumping? Is that?
Oh yeah, you can. Of course, no, you can. If with this, where we go, it's helmets on, it's life jackets and all that sort of stuff. It's a bit rough. It's a bit rough to just. You wouldn't go without the guys at Ocean Vertical. They take us down there. They take us to the cliffs. They've got all the training and stuff. So it's a proper setup. It's not. I do a lot of stuff here at Long Nidri where the jumps aren't as big where I live, but when we do it for Doddy, it'll be the proper setup. Absolutely. But we'll see how that pans out. Davies, I think he'll still be on here somewhere. And as I say, it was his idea just as we were having a coffee in North Berwick last week after their cycle into town. That we'll hatch this plan to do something quite adventurous for Doddy Aid.
It is amazing how Doddy Aid has just grown arms and legs, isn't it? You know, because last year, obviously, it was an amazing event, you know, raising an absolute fortune. But this year, every weekend there's something. So, you know, you've had the Jenny Faulkner's run, you've had the row the first weekend. I know we're going to be speaking to John soon. What we had last weekend was the meal. This weekend, obviously, World in a Day. I mean, there's such a lot of stuff in it, and it's happening. Things that have all been during the event, so it's like it's extraordinary. All to raise money and awareness. It's great.
That's the beauty of Doddy, Dougie. One week we're cycling. We're cycling so many miles and 200 kilometres, and then the next week we're getting battered into a curry and whiskey. This is my kind of charity group, I've got to say. We work hard and we play hard.
Indeed, absolutely the best way to be.
I'm reading here Sergeant James Gregg, who's been on throughout the ride. He's off to sit in the shower and cry till he can feel his legs again. Nashi, Mark, Rob, all the team, well done, and he's had a great day. So that was a good one. He's obviously got a big challenge coming up later in the year. It was good to speak to him earlier in the day. Well done, James, for completing. Who's this? Michael Fotheringham. Phone line fixed, power back on, Zwift working again. Been a frustrating day. He's been on since 7:30 a.m. Well done. What an effort. So, no, it's fantastic.
Brilliant.
I think John is going to be joining us soon.
I saw his name pop up, so he might be here.
John's there.
Is he there? Where is he?
I can see him there.
I'll find him. John, if you unmute, John. He's not on.
Unmute. Guys, I'm going to love you and leave you. My lasagna's calling. Is that okay, boys?
Ali, brilliant. Great to see you as always.
Great to see you, Nashi. Mark, keep up the good work. Great to talk. Great to talk to you. I'll hopefully see you soon, mate.
Always a pleasure, Alistair.
See you soon, guys. Well done, everyone.
Take care. See you later.
Bye, guys.
John, welcome. How are you?
I'm very well, Nashi. Yourself?
I'm fine. I'm fine. Everyone asks me. I'm absolutely fine. It's these riders that we've got to look after. We've got to get them through this next stint. We've still got Dougie Vipond. I'm sure he's going to listen in intensely. But Dougie, if you do nip off while I'm on with John, thank you very much for joining us and getting the riders through. Stories of the rock and roll days have been brilliant.
No bother at all. I'll stick around for a while. Don't worry. I'm interested to hear John. He's always a great man. He's done some great stuff for Doddy Aid and My Name the Doddy Foundation. So I'm sticking around because my lasagna's not in the oven yet.
that coming later. John, thanks for joining us. It's great to see you. I was delighted you took my call this week. But I know it's one of these things that we've all got in common when it's to do with Doddy. We kind of always just react. The answer is, what do you need? You know, it's great to have you on. So welcome to World in a Day. How are you?
Thanks. And this is I'm a bit of a veteran because I did World in the Day way back with Mark.
Okay.
Couple of years ago, and it was fantastic then. But I've been listening on and off all day, and I just can't believe the stars that you've had on here, the sort of important people. And then I'm sorry, I've got the graveyard shift, with everyone disappearing for the dinner.
Not at all. We're not sorry. We've been looking forward to you coming on and joining us because you've had such an interesting life and you've had such an interesting journey across the Atlantic. And I think that's where we should start with the Talisker Challenge that you took on, the solo crossing of the Atlantic. Where did I know the journey, but there'll be people that maybe don't. Tell us where the inspiration came to take on that challenge.
Well, like so many of us, I met Doddy in the flesh at just a function, and I for those of you who don't know, I had a quite a long career in SAS, and I presented him with an SAS bottle of whiskey, and we become really good friends, i.e. emails, chat, and I'd see him at rugby games and get in the lounges with him and stuff like that. And he did a very inspirational thing from a young lad, Hamish, who was only 9 at the time. And he was told he was too small to play rugby at school. And Doddy, got quite upset about this. And we were up in Murrayfield, and we bumped into him in the corridor. And he grabbed hold of Hamish under his arm, walked him into the big room, stood him on the table, and gave one of the most inspiring 2-minute speeches that I've ever heard. And the little lad grew about 2 foot that day. And I looked at Doddy and I thought, you know what, I'd do anything for you. And the sad news came, and I wanted to do something. I spoke to him. And I couldn't think. I didn't want to run a marathon. I wanted to do something really special to try and keep the MND name in the paper or in the media. And I met with Jill Douglas, and that was a funny meeting because we met in Cheltenham, and I think we said about 5 words to one another because we were both bawling our eyes out talking about Doddy. You know, it was absolutely heartbreaking. And she sort of nodded at me and looked at me as much to say, you're a bit mental because like rowing across an ocean by yourself. And I said, look, Jill, I promise you I will do it. Have faith in me. Like, so everyone in the foundation got behind me. I have to give a special mention for Mark, who was absolutely brilliant with me. Mark Beaumont gave up his time, his patience, introduced me to different people. Kenny Logan took me along to 2 big golf days where I brought my boat along, and there's a couple of things happened there which Kenny doesn't know about, but as time goes by maybe I can tell the story. But they introduced me to great people, and I spoke to Doddy, and one of the things he said to me was that the biggest regret that he had as a rugby player was that he wasn't a gym buff. You know, he wasn't in there pumping iron and drinking Go Faster juice. It was a bit like me when I joined the SAS. It was done on a bag of chips and 3 pints of Guinness. You know, there was none of this kind of special food or anything like that. And he said, oh yeah, he said, I never trained, but he was naturally just a big, strong farmer, like, you know. So I got this mental idea in my head that I wouldn't do any physical training before I got in the boat and rode the 3,000 miles. And my thinking was that when you get a terminal disease, you don't actually train for it. It just happens overnight. And then you have to deal with it from day one going forward. So how do you do that? And I was trying to get inside Doddy's head, and I thought, you know what, that's what I'll do. And that's exactly what I did, much to the dismay of my wife, who was in floods of tears in the Canaries, waving me off, like, you know, because I was either going to finish or I was either going to disappear and never be seen again. So they were the 2 outcomes. So that's a wee quick story about how I got there.
Now, take us back to Kenny Logan. You skipped over a couple of stories there. Is there a couple of good stories in there?
Well, I tell you what, Kenny very kindly invited me along with my boat, which I have to say was an absolute nightmare towing this thing around the UK. You know, everyone say, oh yeah, bring your boat along, do this. And I'd set it up and all the players would come out and all the celebs would say, oh, that's great. And we went to this place in North London, and the club said to me, there's a wee grassy knoll outside and the cars drive around it to drop people off at the entrance and disappear again. Set your boat on top of that and everybody will see it. So I thought, oh, that's brilliant. You know, it was all covered in the Doddy tartan. So I set it up, got the oars out. And so after the golf, everyone's having a few beers. I'm chatting to Doddy. They're getting stuck into a big meal. And I thought, right, I need to get out of here and let them get on with their evening. And when I go outside, all the roundabouts covered in cars now. But let me tell you, these are not normal cars. These are Ferraris, Bentleys, everything. So, and I couldn't get my car in to attach it. So I thought, okay, dead easy, I'll just spin the boat around and attach it. So as I spun it around, it started to roll down the hill towards these cars worth about £1 million. And it was a cartoon sketch of me hanging onto the boat, digging my toes in. And I threw the boat to one side and it took the wing mirror of a Bentley 4x4 off, clean off, you know, not even a bit hanging there. So I kind of picked it up and put it on the bonnet. And I thought, right, I'll do the right thing and go in. And I can hear all this roaring and laughter and everyone having a good time. And there was another wee dinner going on. And I actually bottled it. I thought, you know what, I'm not going to go in. So I just hooked the thing up and towed the car home again. So to this day, if you own a Bentley and you're at that golfing, I do apologise, but I owe you a wing mirror.
Oh, good on you. Have you still got the wing mirror? Did you?
No, I haven't. No.
John, now when you say you turn up, you're going to take on the Atlantic, you've got your boat, you've got your prep, your sponsorship, everything's ready to go. I mean, when you say you weren't prepared or you didn't do your training, mean, how exactly do you mean? You'd rowed a boat before, I take it.
No, I've never ever been in a boat in my life, and never rowed. You know, don't get me wrong. We had to do like 140 hours on the water rowing, otherwise you don't qualify for the race entry, and which all has to be documented. But I did this like way back in October in Loch Ness, which was an absolute nightmare because it was like gale force 10 up there, and all I ended up doing was getting in the boat at Fort Augustus and getting blown to the other end, having to hook it up, drive it back up again because the wind was so strong. And I knew very little about it. There was no ballast in the boat. There was no kit in the boat. It was just me, 2 Mars bars and a bottle of water, and off I went. And I slept in the boat for like 10 days. So I did all the training, I did everything, had to document it all, do all that kind of stuff. But after that, I never did nothing at all. And I got in the boat, I think I was about 17 stone. I was like 105 kg, I think it was, when I got on the boat, and I looked like an Easter egg, I have to tell you. But I wasn't in it to win it. You know, I was in it I had a strategy that I would just get in, start the journey, and I'd finish it no matter what. And, you know, that's what was inside my head at the time.
But as we know, it wasn't plain sailing, as they say. It was a tough old trip. What were the first couple of days like?
You know what, Nashi? I never even got outside the harbour.
Yeah.
All the boats are off. I come out the harbour and started rowing, and all of a sudden my boat went into a left turn, and I couldn't get it out. So you have these lines that you steer with, and you can do it with your feet. You have to move your foot left to right, and it turns your the rudder. And I will say it was an act of God. To this day, I don't know why, but all my lines had been undone, and the lines come out of their housing, and I thought, bollocks, I've only gone 30 foot and I've got 3,000 miles to go. So they come out and they asked me to go in, and I said, absolutely not, I'll fix it. And luckily I had a fishing rod with us, and I knocked all the eyelets off, and I ended up sat bobbing up and down just outside the harbour trying to thread this thing through, which I eventually got finished about 2 o'clock in the morning. But I have to tell you, by that time, the entire contents of my stomach were all over the cabin because I had to be inside the cabin to tie this thing in. My phone was ringing non-stop, and it was blowing a bit of a hoolie. And I remember them saying, whatever you do when you leave the harbour, stay to the right-hand side around the island. Don't go straight out, because the wind is so strong, you'll get caught in this kind of wind thing, and you'll never get out of it. You know, you'll be there for days. So as the sun's coming up, I'm in one of these things, and I'm rowing and rowing and rowing and not going anywhere, till all of a sudden I just pop out and I'm off, you know. But I'm stinking, I'm covered in puke, I haven't eaten anything, haven't drunk anything. And that was the start of 3 weeks of absolute hell, because I couldn't eat a single thing. I just keep bringing it back up again. I caught a kidney virus, which I spent 5 days just lying in my boat, not doing anything, just bobbing around. It was absolutely horrendous. And I questioned myself that my training strategy obviously wasn't the right thing to do. But eventually come out the other side, mate, and got going. I was 425 miles behind everyone else, but I managed to catch them up before the end of the event.
What was the plan? What was the ratio for rowing and sleeping? And tell me you had one. I can see a smile appearing here.
Oh, well, you know what, they say this, and they say, oh yeah, it's 2 hours on, 2 hours off if there's 2 or more of you. And I just think, well, that's like loads of sleep during the day. You don't need sleep during the day. You just need to sleep at night. So in the first, as much as I could manage, I would row until, you know, I felt like I was going to pass out. And then I'd sleep, and it would only be like a couple of hours. I'd get back up again, rehydrate, do a bit more. So during the night, I staggered it, but during the day, I would row from first light all the way through to like 10 o'clock at night, you know, so it was a good 16 hours days, you know, on the oars. And I wasn't going like an Olympian, you know, it wasn't, you know, it's a steady plod, you know, and some days are easier than others. Some days you've got the waves with you and you've got the wind. Other days you've got the waves coming from the side and you're all over the place, you know, you can't get going. It's absolutely horrendous. And the thing that people ask me about, what's the one thing that you remember? And I'll just say one word: relentless. Because the waves and the wind and everything is relentless. It doesn't stop at 5 o'clock. You can't go, whoa, chaps, I'm having my supper now, I'll just park over here. It does not stop, you know, so, and you mentally have to deal with that.
Yeah, and what about the fear of, did you capsize at all? Were you close to capsizing? Had you prepared and done the training for that?
Yeah, it was, you know, strangely enough, it was, everyone was super worried about capsizing in the storm, but I had great confidence in the boat. And as long as your cabins were sealed and everything was closed, then the boat, and you tested it before you went out there, the boat would right itself, you know, within 10 seconds, 20 seconds, it would be back up again. You know, it was designed on a lifeboat type thing, you know. So I wasn't bothered, but we had one day, and it was the only time that I was a little bit apprehensive during the row, because as the day got through, the waves got bigger and bigger, and you would go to the top of this wave, and it was just a big valley, and you would go down the other side, and in the valley the wind was howling, but as you come up the other side, sometimes you would actually end up surfing on the waves. But then every now and again you'd get a big white one that would come over the top, and I got caught in one of them, and it tipped the boat from end to end. It kind of went left a wee bit and then tipped the boat, and I threw myself off because I didn't want 1.5 tons coming down on top of my head, being knocked out and then getting scoffed by a load of sharks. So I threw myself off the boat, and something did hit me, but I got back on the boat again. My boat had turned sideways, and I was trying to get the oars back in. Luckily, they're all tied on. I was trying to get back in, and 3 or 4 waves come, and then the same thing happened again. And this time, when I come back up, there was blood everywhere. And I was like, shit, it's got me in the head, like, you know, and I was panicking because I thought, right, head injury, that's pretty serious. So I got on the boat and I was touching my head like this, and there was blood everywhere. And I could see this massive wave coming, and I knew what was going to happen. And I just screamed, you know, is that the best you can do? And it tipped me again, like, you know. So I got back on, but that was the only time it kind of happened. But the blood actually came from a thumbnail that got ripped off somehow during and by me doing this on my head, the blood was dripping everywhere. But yeah, so that was the kind of the only scary bit, really. And at night, sometimes when it was stormy, your boat would get hit with a wave, it'd get lifted out the water and thrown about 20 foot, like, you know. You spent the rest of the night trying to sort everything inside your cabin.
Yeah, and you mentioned sharks there. You didn't want to be unconscious in the water with sharks. What about wildlife? Did anything come up to say hello, to check you out? And what did you see when you were out there?
Oh, absolutely. It was the best days to see wildlife were not the good rowing days. You know, there was no wind, no waves. And, you know, the sea turtles are the size of a dining room table, you know, and they're just covered in green sort of slime, and they come up and have a look, you know, and bump into the boat. And I had hundreds and hundreds of dolphins around me. I had a pod with me for 3 days, and, you know, small ones from this big to massive ones, and they'd be jumping around the boat. And I think the best experience, well, I had 2 actually, was a minke whale. And it was a bit of a storm, but when I say a storm, the waves were the kind of monstrous but big rolling ones. They weren't, the water wasn't coming over the top, and these were like 80 foot tall. And there was a big storm hitting the UK at the time, and this was kind of everything that got pushed south. So I had to put the para anchor out, which is like a big parachute, and it goes down about 100 meters, and it kind of holds you steady. It stops the wind blowing you, and you kind of go with the current. And whilst it was out, I got visited by 3 minke whale, and one of them come right up to the boat, turned on its belly, and made eye contact with me, like 3 foot away. And it was just, my morale just was like unbelievable after that. It was just like, you know, I can see you, you know, hello or whatever, you know. It was the most incredible thing. And yeah, no, I'll never forget that. And I'll never forget my encounter with the shark either. Because on the crossing, you've got to get in the water and you have to scrape all the stuff off the bottom of your boat, because one man power, you're not going that fast. So everything sticks to it. And it's quite a laborious job. And I was in this one day, and it was nice to get out the boat and kick your arm and your legs and, you know, sort of enjoy the water. And it was a fairly calm day. And I was cleaning the boat, and you had all these fish that come around, and it was like being in your own aquarium. The colors were unbelievable, and they come right up to you and look at you and swim off again. And I was cleaning the boat, and they disappeared, they darted. And I thought, whoa, I'm getting out. So I got myself up, climbed out the boat, and I'm drying myself. And I just threw my towel in the cabin and went to close the door. And when I looked up, there was a 12-foot shark right against my boat. And it was a blue shark. And it actually went doof, pushed the boat, much to say, nearly got you there. And it just swam off really quietly. And it was, you know, the dolphins, the whales, the turtles, you could hear them in the water splashing, and, you know, but this thing was stealth. It was just, you know, no wonder they've got a scary name, you know, because, you know, it just snuck up on me and then just disappeared again. I never went back in the water after that. You know, I just thought, I can have 15 ton of barnacles, I'm still rowing, like, you know, I'm not getting back in.
John, I'm going to take this chance just to say there's lots of people. 240 miles completed. That's me done. Thank you, everybody. That was Liz. Christine Kellick, thank you for a fantastic day. Loved all the inspiring talks. I don't think I'll be able to sit down and walk for a week. So, yeah, no, well done, everybody. And John, just you mentioned capsize there. Mark, as we know, has been on my podcast a couple of times, and he's just sent me a message to remind me that he's done that row and he capsized. So I'll bring Mark in, because I'm sure you guys will have a bit of common ground here to talk about life at sea.
Hi, Mark.
How you doing, matey?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. Listen,
it was bringing a lot of memories back there. Some good, some not so good. When you're in valleys of water, which is sort of 15, 16 seconds between peak and trough. When I went across the Atlantic, the record was 3.4 knots average to get across, and you know, there was points you'd go to, you know, 15 knots down in front of waves. So it's the strength of the water is everything compared to your futile strength through the oars.
Oh, it's Mother Nature is awesome, but it is absolutely frightening also, you know, because you have no control whatsoever. There's not a single thing you can do, but as long as your boat's pointing in the right direction, it'll push you along, you'll surf and all that kind of stuff. But you know, the most important thing is that I didn't mention is you are attached to a harness, which is 3 points of contact on the boat. That is incredibly important, because if you weren't attached to anything, you would never ever get back to the boat, you know, and you'd never be seen again. One of
my scariest moments was, we were a triple scull, so there was 6 on board, and one of my scariest moments was I didn't have my harness on. I was in the middle of the night, but there was a metal grab rail sort of alongside quite low, and then there was a safety line, which is basically like a washing line a little bit higher up, like a safety line. And I was kneeling on the side, having a pee over the side in the middle of the night, and I'm at the back, so you know the guys can't see me. And the boat lurched over to the side, and I grabbed onto the wire along the top, and the clasp at the end bust.
Wow.
The wire snapped under my weight, and I went over, and my waistline was on the metal bar, and I was on that tipping point looking down into the water in the night, and I didn't have my harness on. And it was just that moment. It was just that awful gut-wrenching moment. I got back into the boat, and I was pretty shaken up, and the guys just wouldn't have known. The guys wouldn't have known.
Yeah, I know, and it's unfortunately it's got more and more professional now, and safety is obviously, I'm not saying it wasn't years ago, but it's got more and more stringent, and sadly, you know, there's been a few people that have been swept overboard and not to be seen again, you know, but very rarely, and like that must have been, God, I don't think I would have slept after that, Mark, you know.
It was a bit scary, and I mean, I think you say it's, I mean, statistically, it's a pretty safe sport. I know that's a weird thing to say, but you know, it is a relatively safe sport. But I would also say that it's got very high exposure, and by that I mean when things do go wrong, they tend to go very, very wrong. So even though they're unlikely to go wrong, you know, if you get into trouble like that, you tend not to come back. I mean, it's the 29th of January, 2022, and 10 years ago today, exactly to the day, I'd just been rescued by the Nord Taipei. So I got rescued at 1 o'clock in the morning after capsizing on the 28th. So this is the 10 year. And so 1 o'clock in the morning, we were in not big seas. We were just in what I'd call confused water, you know, just like, we had the following wind, but then the waves were slightly coming across the boat. And, you know, so the boat was getting sort of tossed around, but, you know, certainly not big seas that you get lost in, these valleys of water. And when we went over, it was just terrible timing. So we're on a change of shift. And normally the cabin doors are shut, the boat's watertight. Yeah, you get a hell of a fright, but it will self-right pretty quickly. But when we went over, somebody was literally clambering out the cabin, so the stern cabin flooded immediately. And so we went upside down, and I realised, because I was in the rowing deck, so my feet are strapped in, and I'm upside down in the water, waiting for the boat to come around. You know, I'm fine. I'm perfectly calm under there. I know what's happening. And then I just realised the boat's not coming around. The boat's not coming around. And so I reached down and pulled my feet out of the shoes, left them in the straps, swam for the surface. You've got to swim down. You've got to swim down underneath the safety rails and up to the surface. And one of the guys during the capsize nearly drowned. So when he eventually surfaced, he'd taken on water, and looking after him was the first priority. But we then spent 14 hours, you know, trying to be rescued. 14 hours doing what was necessary. You know, it took, in training, it takes no time at all to do all the necessary, but actually it took us 45 minutes to get everyone into the life raft. And then once we were all in the life raft, you know, we tied a 50-meter line between the upturned vessel and the life raft so that the riggers wouldn't puncture the life raft. And then, you know, once we were all safe there, we didn't have anything else in the life raft except for, you know, that little safety bubble. So we had to have a conversation about what we needed when, and like, so, you know, getting the grab bag, you know, the EPIRB, the sat phone, flares, all the stuff that was needed to be rescued was the priority. But it took 6 hours. It took 6 hours swimming back and forth to rescue, to find all the kit that we needed. And then when it got dark, we just sat tight. And the Nord Taipei, which was a big 180-meter Taiwanese cargo vessel going from Venezuela to Egypt, rerouted to pick us up. But you now imagine you're in a tiny life raft, no bigger than a kitchen table, and bobbing around in the middle of the night. And this thing, which is, you know, the size of a football field with a 9-meter deck height, is trying to pick you out of the ocean in the dark of night. And I mean, I'll never forget this thing because, you know, the first time it missed us by a mile. It missed us by a long way. And, you know, you can imagine the captain up on the bridge trying to get close to us and you're just bobbing around in the dark. And then it turned around and it took 20 minutes to do a big circle in the ocean and come back around. And the second time it had the stern, what are they called? The stern booster on to try and turn towards us. And it very nearly ran us over because, you know, we're underneath the boat. We're looking up at this just huge black shape in the night and it just so nearly ran us over. I was literally leaning out the life raft using our hands to try and get away from this thing that was about to run us over. And the third time around it rescued us. So you know, grabbed the lines and then eventually got up the rope ladder. But yeah, that's exactly 10 years ago today.
Wow. Yeah, they say it's actually scarier getting rescued than it is actually dealing with some of the problems, you know.
Oh, I mean, that was by far the most dangerous part of the operation. I mean, we nearly lost one of the rowers when we went over because he nearly drowned. But after that, it was the rescue. It was very, 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 very scary. And then we spent 10 days coming slowly back across the Atlantic and we got dropped off in Gibraltar. We hoped that we'd be close enough to the Caribbean to get picked up by some nice cruise, you know, but not to be. And we got taken back to Gibraltar.
Yeah, I had quite a few sailing boats visit me on my crossing. You know, I think they were just nosy, you know, they just wanted to come and have a look. And then, you know, they'd sort of wave at you. And it was nice to get a visit, actually. It was nice to sort of see people.
But that must have been over on the other side, because I don't think people appreciate how empty the middle is.
Oh, not a sausage for like weeks. You don't see anything. Absolutely nothing. The only thing you do see is birds, and I'm astounded that every single day there was lots of birds around, and I'd think, where on earth have they come from?
Yeah, no, it's staggering. It's staggering when you see the bird life out in the middle there. You see a little bit like the shipping lanes as you leave. We left from Tafria, Morocco, and headed down towards the Cape Verde and across. So you see a little bit in those first couple of days, but like you, I was pretty green. I was really seasick for the first while. It takes a while to get your sea legs. So I didn't really enjoy that coastal bit. And then once you're out, you know, it's just, people don't realize it's big waves and it's little waves for a long time.
Yeah. And it's like every day is different. You know, the waves are different every day. And you can train all you want on an erg and you can get all that beautiful position and you can do that and, you know, row for like 6 hours on an erg and think that you're invincible. You get in a boat on the sea when it's choppy, you've got waves coming over the side, your shins are getting bashed, they're bleeding, you've got one oar down, one oar up, and you're trying to row. And after 30 minutes, the frustration is coming out, you know, because you just want to get 2 oars in the water and row. And I think I only managed that on the days where it was dead calm. And it was like 100 and something degrees. Water was like a glass. And after about an hour rowing, you were spent because it was like rowing in porridge, you know.
It's so hard to catch your oars. And, you know, you're literally doing this all the time. Yeah. And then when you finish your shift, you've got to recover in the cabins. And the cabins are just an absolute sweat bucket. I mean, it's just disgusting in there.
Yeah.
Tell me about the flying fish.
Yeah, no, lots of flying fish. Yeah, I mean, I used to love watching at the end of the day because just as dusk was coming down, they'd start shooting out the water, and you had this bird. I have no idea what it was, but they used to come and hover, and they used to dive down and catch the flying fish whilst they were out the water. You know, I love watching that. But during the night, you got hit with one of them. Oh my God. I swear to God, it's like being hit with a baseball bat, you know, or someone shooting you, because
they're really bony, aren't they? They've got nothing on them. They've got absolutely nothing on them. So it's beautiful, as you say, around dawn and dusk, that sort of golden hour, when you see them flying low across the water. And I mean, it happens all the time. And but there's nothing funnier. I mean, you were obviously solo, but there's nothing funnier when you're rowing along in your own head in the middle of the night. And I was always at the back. I was always furthest back. And so there was 2 guys rowing in front of me. And, you know, everyone sort of slightly zoned out and just sort of like quiet. And then one of your mates gets thwacked across the side of the chops by this silver bullet. And it was just the best thing. And you'd finish your shifts after 2 hours, and there'd be like 20 of these things.
Yeah.
Stink. They stink. They absolutely stink to high heaven.
Yeah, you can't eat them either because they're just bone. You know, there's nothing of them, bone and wings. And yeah, I know it's yeah, they were an absolute delight. They were. Oh my God, yeah.
John, what was there on the boat that you thought, how have I forgotten that? Was there anything that you thought I could have really done with that right now, or something that would have been really helpful that you just thought, I wish I'd brought that with me?
Oh, so I made lots of mistakes, actually, big mistakes, and this is why I suffered, was that being a tight jock, everyone was selling cartons of food, you know, the dehydrated food, and they go, it's £9 a bag, but it's really good quality, and you need like 165 of them. And I was like, no way, that's you know, I'd rather give the money to Doddy, like, you know. And so someone at the desk said, we've got a load of stuff, and it's £2 a bag. And I said, that's the one for me. So I said, I'll take them all. Now, there's a very good reason they were £2 a bag, because they were absolutely horrendous. No matter how much water you put in them, no matter how much you left them, it was like eating gravel, and it was terrible. And so the food, I made a huge mistake. Luckily, I had lots of snacks, but they went sort of the first half of the race. They were all gone by halfway. But the best thing that I had with me was chocolate milkshake in powder form that you mixed with water. And this was great because you put 3 scoops in, 1,200 calories a cup, you know, so you were getting the calories in. So I would have loads of these every day. That's what I was living on, basically. So I'd fill myself with these and eat what I could. And but it still, you know, the endurance side, I mean, I lost over 4 stone in weight. And, you know, I got off the other end, you know, a walking skeleton. I hadn't built the muscle, you know, and so guys would be training for like 18 months, you know, and they, you know, they got off, they'd lost a bit of weight, maybe 4 kilos or whatever, you know. I lost 4 stone, you know.
And obviously that through, you know, burning the energy, but also the sickness must have just dropped the weight off you.
Yeah. And, you know, my wife bought all these like tins of peaches before I set off, and they were the best thing ever because and if you've heard me talk before, you might know the story, but during those first 3 weeks, I'd open these peaches. Some of them were in packets, you know, the sealable, and I take the peaches. I'd take about 6 peaches, but then about 2 minutes later, 3 would come back up, so I'd catch them, you know, in the thing, because, you know, it was really slidey, you know, with the juice, like, you know, and then I'd take them and eventually after about an hour, they'd all stay down. But it was this game of up and down, you know, with the peaches. But they were fantastic. It kept me going, you know. It was, you know, a morale booster. But the food, terrible. The milkshakes. But talk about sore bums. That was what I was going to mention. You know, on a bike, sore bums. What I can't understand is you buy the basic boat, and I bought a brand new one, so it's about £70,000 for a brand new boat for 2 people. And they give you this little seat, which looks a bit like that, like a bike seat that's on these wheels. And they tell you, the best thing to do is to cut out some sleeping mat or some foam and put it on the top so you don't get, you know, sores on your bum. And I was like, why haven't you designed the seat? If that's an ocean rowing boat, why haven't you designed the seat? You know, if you buy a new Mercedes, they don't go, oh, there's your seat, a block of wood. We suggest you put some leather around it and, you know, a bit of foam on it, you know. So I was fortunate enough. Someone from Holland got in touch with me who'd done the previous race, and they'd won 4 guys. 4 giants. They're all 6'7" Dutch guys, you know, I mean, built for rowing. and they won the race the year previously. But they got in touch and they said, "Oh, we think you're a funny guy, and we've listened to you on the podcast, but you need one of these seats." And what they'd done is they designed this big seat, and it was made of mesh. When you're in hospital, I don't know if you've ever been in hospital, or someone's been in hospital for like 3 months, and they lay you on this mesh stuff to stop you getting bed sores because it allows the circulation. So they'd made it out of this, and it was like butterfly wings. So your spine dropped down the back. There was a hole there, but you were able to tilt this thing, and your hips opened up when you sat down, and it was the best bit of kit. I got off. I might have lost 4 stone, but I didn't have a pimple on my bum when I got off. I was in good form there, So,
in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, what are you drawing on from your SAS days? Because you must have been in some tricky situations back in your military days. What kind of things did you rely on as the nights came in, or the sort of the realization that you were completely on your own in the Atlantic Ocean?
It was just the sense of humor, that you have when you're serving in the military, and I was listening to the guys that are on Hamish and all that saying it's good to have characters and all this kind of stuff. Boy, did we have characters in the SAS, I can tell you, they come from all walks of life. And it was thinking about some of the funny things that had happened. And because I remember being in some terrible situations, and guys, you're quite special. You feel special to get in, but in some situations, you look at one another and think, I don't think we might be coming back from this one, or this is going to be, but there's always someone that will start cracking jokes or tell funny stories, or, and it was those things that got me through it. It was the funny stories. And even Jill Douglas told me a story about her son called her up one day and said, "Mum," and who she's married to, so she calls him up and says, "Mum, we're getting some new rugby tops. Is it okay if I buy one?" She's like, "Yeah, of course, son, I'll do what you want." She goes, "I'm buying an England rugby top. Is that okay?" And Jill says, "Don't know about that. You better ring your father." And I don't know why, but that one had me in stitches for days, Just imagine this scenario of like him having to ring his dad to say, "Is it okay if I wear an England top?" Having his dad having played for Scotland, but yeah, so all the funny stories, and things like that. But also, having done SAS selection, it takes 6 months, from start to finish. And trust me, you do have to bloody train for that. There's no bluffing your case there. And every day just gets harder and harder and harder. And, so in my head, I'm going, you know what? I did it. It was 6 months. I mean, I was 27 at the time, but rowing the ocean, I was 57. So it was 30 years previous. But I thought, yeah, I can do that. So I'll get through this, So that's what was in my head, mate.
Was SAS selection, what was harder? Being in the middle of the ocean, spewing your guts up, or SAS selection?
No, the rowing. Being by yourself. And don't get me wrong, in the SAS, you often you do operate by yourself, and I operated undercover for a long time, against terrorist groups, and it is, sometimes it's a lonely place, but you draw on all that experience. And I was fortunate being 57. I'd been through lots of things. I'd been shot down in a helicopter. I'd been shot down in an aeroplane. I'd been shot at on a daily basis. And I thought, actually, I'm in a boat in nice warm weather and I'm rowing to Antigua. So it's not that stressful, So I just got on with it.
What was life like undercover in the SAS? What was that world like?
It was incredibly stressful, immersing yourself into areas of operations where the bad guys were, and the idea was to close ranks with them, not to infiltrate them, like none of this nonsense you see on the movies, you know. It was to be in and around the areas that they were operating and being able to report back what's going on. You know, you weren't there to like be some sort of ninja and take out 15 people. That's not, you know, it's just, you know, that's the movies, Hollywood. This was surviving on your wit, blending in and being able to report back what's going on so the people above you could make some of those big decisions, you know. It was incredibly stressful. It affects you in many ways. You know, I had to drink quite a bit in the evening to get to sleep, because in your head you are imagining all these situations that you get captured or tortured or whatever, and what would you do and all this kind of stuff. But it goes with the job, you know. So you were allowed to sort of have a few scoops in the evening to de-stress, as they say, and help you get to sleep. But that part of my career was the best part of my life. You know, for the things that I was involved with and the things that it taught me about the human being and how nasty people can be to one another, but also how nice they can be. Not everyone's a bad person, you know. So even deep in enemy territory, if you get compromised, there are people there that want to help you, you know, even though they're on the other side.
Where were you? Are you allowed to say, or is it still,
not really,
still classified?
Not really. I can't. No, I'm not really meant to go into detail about it, mate. I'd get myself in trouble. Sorry.
Okay, no problem. But yeah, no, it's interesting what you say there. You've been in some really dark and scary places, but you still find someone that will give you a hand. You know, someone that will still maybe look out for you when you think you're done.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and it's you know, and it was a difficult time, and we actually changed the course of what was going on then. And the people that I was working against, strange world that we live in, actually helped me achieve something many years later for the good. And once I left the military in civilian life, one of my jobs was I volunteered basically to go and meet a terrorist group to try and end violence. And after 5 years of smuggling those guys across many borders to have secret meetings, we had a complete cessation of operations and an end to violence. And the guys that I was working against, they came forward because they wouldn't sign the deal, and told them, you have to do it because it's the only way out of your situation. So it was a strange one, you know, from being on the kinetic side, fighting and doing other things, to making peace in the world, like, you know. And it's one of the things I hold my hat up against and say, you know, I've done both, so I'm, you know, consider myself a bit of an expert in both sides.
Absolutely. But take us to the finish line of the row.
Yeah.
What was that feeling like, putting the flares up? Was your family, was your wife, were they on there?
Yeah.
Were they there? So
the night before, I can see Antigua, I can see this, and I get my little binos out and I can see the lights, and it's Antigua just coming, and I'm about 30 miles maybe or something, I don't know, but I can just see the wee glow. And if I row really hard, you know, at last light, if I row really hard, I can probably get in about 4 o'clock in the morning. And so I calls my wife and I said, look, you know, it's 4. And she's like, right. She says, he was only 4 at the time, wee Lockie, and my 3 other kids, like, you know, are teenagers. And I said, look, what I'll do, I'm not going to row. I'm just going to wash the boat down, stuff my face, drink as much as I can, water, and I'm just going to let the current take me till I get near the island, then I'll row in. And I figured it out with this lady called Dawn. She was my weather router, Dawn Woods. Absolutely fantastic lady. And she looked after my family, told them what was going on when they were worried, and she guided me across, like, you know. And I said, I'm not going to row, and that way I'll get in about 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. So that'll let the kids sleep, you know. So even at the death, I was like, you know, I thought, yeah, no, it's better. I'd rather have the kids have a good night's sleep than come and see their dad, like, you know. But so I gets across the finishing line, flares go up, and I starts rowing into where your boat gets taken in, and I can hear bagpipes. And there's a wee boat alongside, 2 crew from the Talisker Whiskey, and I'm rowing, and I don't know why, it was just everything, and I just burst out crying, and I couldn't stop crying because I can hear these bagpipes getting louder and louder. And I said, look, guys, I just need a minute to myself, you know. So got myself together, and then I rowed in, and you know, to see your kids there, you know, and they're all holding up wee Scotland flags, and the pipes are blaring. And what it was the McLean brothers, who broke 3 world records. They got in about 6 months before me, I think. But anyway, they got in, and they were married with kids and everything by the time I got in. But they, one of them had remained in Antigua, and the brother had done this tape to be played, and they had to get special permission to play it at that time in the morning, you know, in the harbour, like, you know. But the amazing thing is, these super yachts are all lined up. I mean, 80 million quid worth, and there's dozens and dozens of them, and they're all sounding their horns. All the crews come out, they all clap you in, and there's a big crowd there, and it's unbelievable, you know, unbelievable. But you get out the boat and you can't stand up. Yeah, it was.
Your body's gone. Your body, your fatigue and everything, just in the energy sapped from you.
Yeah, and your sea legs. You know, I couldn't walk properly for 3 days. You know, and my hands I had with holding the oars. I had claw hands, and it took 6 months before all the pain went. You know, took me a long time to recover. Took me about 8 months for everything, you know, to get back to normal. But yeah, it was worth it. I'd do it again as well for Doddy, 100%.
And obviously, you're so involved with Doddy Aid, but how have you enjoyed this month? And obviously, you did that a couple of years ago now, but obviously you were you led up the row a couple of weeks ago. You've been so engaged, and obviously you tell your story now and things like that. How have you enjoyed the journey since getting back on land?
Yeah, no, listen, I'm heart and soul is into doing what I can for Doddy. Just never forget what he did for my little lad, you know, and I'll pay that back in spades, and will continue to as long as I'm still breathing. And you know, I've got a family that live very close to me here in Nashi, and sadly the father he died just before Christmas, and left a wife and a young lad who's only 5, and Jimmy Thompson was his name. And I talked to him many times on the crossing, you know. And you know, and his wife's just got a new roof on her house, and the Doddy Foundation wrote a check in a heartbeat, you know, to help her, you know, to contribute towards it. So they gave a little sum, got some from MND, and the builders come in, band of builders, they did all the work for free, and you know, and I just love helping anyone concerned with MND. But you know, and I'll continue to do that, you know. And this year, I have to say, I was a bit down, to be honest with you, Nashi, in the beginning, because I felt I didn't have enough time to organise stuff, you know, straight after New Year, and I felt guilty that I didn't have several hundred people rowing, and you know, and I was on it on the 7th of January. It was too quick for, you know, I was wishing it was like the end of the month or whatever. So I think I'll have a word with the big man, the commander-in-chief, and say, when we do this stuff next year, if we can have a good build up to it, you know, and so everyone can do something at the end of the month. That'll give an opportunity to draw people in and to, you know, make some more money.
Yeah, it's been mentioned quite a few times throughout the day, just the variety of stuff that's going on, whether cycling, rowing, walking, running. We're going to be jumping off cliffs soon, all brought together by Doddy Aid. There's something for everyone in this month. It's just fantastic. It's such a community effort, isn't it?
Well, what a man. And Davey, I don't know if Davey is still cycling away.
I think he is, Davey.
Unbelievable. I mean, you know, there he is.
Evening, John.
All right, mate. How are you?
Very well, very well.
Yeah, I know. Well, you know, all you guys, you know, there's you with, as you call it, the bastard disease, and you're on a bike and you're rowing your legs off, you know. I've done a bit of rowing today, a bit of running. I've been out, you know, and my check will go in tonight, or my sum will go in tonight of 100 quid, you know. So I'll get that in. But I mean, people like you and Doddy, you know, you have no idea how much pull you have. You know, I know you kind of smile and you laugh it off, but you know what? People would go to the end of the world for you and Doddy, you know. So I think what you're doing is absolutely amazing, you know, and you ask for anything, you'll get it.
John, thank you. I'll try not to. I get a bit emotional, particularly after 352k on a bike. But no, it's been, you know, Doddy, you know, I've got a lot of, you know, my cycling endeavors, fundraising, but you know, I've got a lot of emotion wrapped up in Doddy Aid and support, and seeing the support, you know, come to life and throughout the year, but particularly in January. And so thank you, John. But I've got to thank you for the incredible, inspiring stories. The last 40 kilometers have literally flown by. Listening to you getting taken over by a monstrous swell in the Atlantic, or the blue, almost being attacked by a blue shark. So an incredible story. All that, taking that wing mirror off the Bentley, that made me chuckle.
John, one thing I want to know is, see, when you arrive at the finish line and you've got to maneuver your boat into the harbour around all these 80 million boats, you take any wing mirrors off, or you crash into anything? You know, absolutely shattered trying to get this boat in.
You know what? I was so worried about that. The number of boats in training that I run into, like, you know, and fights I had with people, like, you know, calling me a useless so-and-so, and I was like, yeah, you're absolutely right. You know, I haven't got a clue what I'm doing, but no, there's a wee kind of little rib that guides you in, like, you know, just in case, like, and you take your time, and they get in and they look after you. You know, you have to hold the sign up and say a few words before you get out the boat. But you know, it's incomprehensible to think that where motor neuron disease was, you know, just 3-4 years ago, you know, people didn't know about it. People knew nothing, you know. And if someone in the street was saying, "There's my tin, put some money in there," you'd be like, "Oh, is this a scam or what?" You know, Doddy has kicked doors in. He has just caused this massive eruption around the world. And boy, does everyone know about it now. And, you know, some of these other charities were working on it for 40, 50 years, little progress. You know, the big man in the tartan suit comes along and he did it like he plays rugby, straight through the middle, door kicked open, and saying, "Come on, let's fix this." So I'm glad so many people can join in. The cycling, I've never done that in my life, but there you go. That's a challenge for another day, I think. But maybe we'll do something about it later on.
No, but John, I mean, I couldn't agree more. Even, you know, my story, I got diagnosed, I think, about 18 months after Doddy. So this is almost 3.5 years ago, over 3.5 years ago now. And I remember, you know, you know, I was 30, fit. You know, I used to run my marathons, bit of cycling. So it was very much a process of elimination. I got tested for tropical diseases, exposed to dangerous metals. So I've been traveling around the world quite a bit with work and holidays. And I saw all sorts of specialists. They thought it was carpal tunnel syndrome at one point. But I remember in Queen Square in London, a professor, a lovely professor called Dr. Hadi Manji. And he's one of the neurologists who's connected to Sean McGrath and the M&D smart guys, the Professor Chandra in Edinburgh. And he said, "You've got motor neuron disease. It's okay. Look at Stephen Hawking," who was alive at the time. I'm thinking, well, first off, I don't quite have the mental capacity of Stephen Hawking. And doesn't really live an active lifestyle like I do. But then that just goes to show 2.5 years ago, the only real reference point for autoimmune disease was people like Stephen Hawking. And at the time, my Story Foundation was very much, it was a very different beast it is now. It's picked up so much momentum. It's been so disruptive, as you say, John, about spreading the message, kicking down doors and questioning some of the research and how the money is being used and how it's attributed to actually help the individuals, as well as pushing the envelope in terms of different research streams. So hats off to the big man Doddy, because people, although there's so many more people we see, Rob Burrows for one, being diagnosed with this condition, but it's not a more common disease than it was 4 years ago. It's just we know more about it, and there's more people willing to talk about their experiences.
Absolutely.
Well said, Davey. Davey, I'm bringing Rob back in. Rob, how are you? I see you're chewing on some supplies.
Very crunchy, Chris, and a beer. So I shouldn't have shown that. That's terrible of me, Davey. I'm really sorry. So you can only be a few kilometers away from one yourself now.
Not too far. Yep. I've got about 30k. So I'll be done within the hour.
All right. Geez, I now feel like I better come back and find you and draft you. Have you got a few people
drag me to the finish line?
Have you got any? Are you in Zwift? Are you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rob,
I better. Okay.
How have you enjoyed today, Rob? How have you enjoyed it?
It's been fantastic. It's sailed past. There's been a few, there's been relative highs and relative lows in terms of how the body's feeling. But at the end of it, it went pretty well. I'm so very happy with the performance on the bike. Thrilled with the way your job's gone, Nash. You've had there hasn't really been a dull moment, has there? It's been 12 hours of constant interest and humor, enlightenment, everything. So it's been fantastic. And you, how are you getting any pressure sores on the bum, or have you got a special seat, a mesh sheet to support you?
There's no mesh feet. There's no mesh feet. There's no flying fish. There's no sharks. I'm all good. I'm all good, Rob. Thank you, though. Thank you. For me, it's been a pleasure, but we're not there yet. Davey, he's going to get those 30k in, and we've got other riders still with us. So there's some folks still ploughing on. Davey, I'm getting rightly reminded about the North Coast 500. Just tell us a wee bit about that, because you did that incredible journey on the North Coast. It was Richard Ellis there, the film that's coming out.
Yeah, so I suppose before I was really connected with the foundation, I was almost 2 years in to the diagnosis. Now, of course, when I received the bombshell, which changed my life forever, I was told the average age from diagnosis is 2 years. So as we were marking this, so I wanted to mark the 2-year anniversary. The fact that I'm living to live rather than preparing for anything else. So I wanted to do something to celebrate it, and something a little bit tricky on my bike. So we decided to do the North Coast 500 in 4 days. This was in August 2019. August 2020, in between the lockdowns. And I spoke to Mr. Mark Beaumont quite a bit beforehand. He was giving very valuable advice. And raising money for the foundation, which we had a lot of fun in, I suppose, in the build-up, building momentum. Ended up raising just over £150,000 for the foundation in the build-up, and then over the 4 days. And when I told the world about my news and the fact I had MMD, it's not the kind of thing you want to ring up your pals and say, "Oh, by the way, guess what? So it's a bit of a, I suppose, a coming out story about my condition too. But my friend Will Nangle, who's a very talented cinematographer, filmmaker, asked if he could come along and document our time on the North Coast 500, which he did. But when he came along on the ride, we cycled it in 4 days. We were very fortunate with the weather. He got some incredible action shots. But the product sort of manifested into something a little bit different and something a lot more personal. So there's a film coming out which he's made, which the focal point is our cycle ride, which is really about my diagnosis, how I've reacted to my diagnosis, and how me and my family now living with it. So it's incredible. It's very difficult for me to watch. I didn't watch. I think he's done an incredible, he's very sensitive in a very motivational way how he's positioned it. But obviously there's things in there which I got to look down the barrel of the gun when he's asking me some certain questions. It was a difficult watch for me and my family, but I hope it's going to be well received. So this film, which is called The Ride On, the trailer is now online. If you want to go to therideon.com, you can sign up for further details and watch the full trailer there. And I suppose the pre-screening is going to be the Fort William Film Festival next month in February. And that's where it's going to be screened for the first time. And then there's going to be an Edinburgh premiere. It'd be great to get John, Mark, Rob, you got to come down for it, Nashi, and everyone connected with the Doddy Aiden Foundation along. We're going to premiere at the Film House on Lothian Road and have a big party afterwards. But again, with COVID, everything was booked in. And then with the increase in cases just before Christmas, they cancelled all the private bookings and films. So we had to push it back again, but we are about to release the new dates for the Edinburgh premiere.
We are there, Davey. We are there. You know we are. We will support you all the way, as John has said several times. Thank you for telling us that, Davey. I know you spoke with me about that previously on my podcast, and yeah, it's a sensitive subject. As you say, you look down the barrel, and it's very brave the way you've explained what you've gone through, the stuff you've put on social media through Doddy Aid is extremely brave. You've been so honest. You've been so kind with your time. You've given up so much time to this, even away from your own family, as you've done things to raise money for other MND sufferers. So good on you, mate.
Thank you, Nashi.
You're an inspiration, pal. But let's get you through these miles. Let's get you to the end of this. We've still got JJ Chalmers coming on, everybody. He's messaged me saying he's maybe running 10, 15 minutes late. So maybe another 5 or 10 minutes for him. And then we've got Molly Hughes is going to join us. So we're really going to stack this last sort of half hour, 45 minutes to an hour, whatever you need, get some real inspiration still to come. John, if you're hanging on, please do stay with us. Rob, I'll come back to you. Obviously, we were touching on there just how good a day it's been. And I can see Mark's back as well. We're not finished yet, but there's a lot of miles being accomplished. There's a lot of money being raised. There's been people reaching out from all over the world. There's been Greg Laidlaw coming in from Japan, Sir Chris Hoy, Sir Steve Redgrave, Hoggy. Mel's been with us. We've had conversations with Steve Bate. I could keep going on. The conversations, the energy has been fantastic, but the effort from the riders. The riders have got me through this. The riders have got all the guests through this because we wanted to do it for you guys. Give us a bit on just the effort from everyone today.
Well, it's been amazing, and to a degree, I've been in a bit of a bubble myself. You're just sitting there. You look at the clock and you realise you've been on the bike for 11 out of the last 11 3/4 hours, and it's quite reassuring that the body's still working after that long, but. The time has flown fast. It's a great format, and I remember when Mark first explained it to me, I kept going, so we're all going to meet up on Zwift, and he was saying, no, this has got nothing to do with Zwift. This is a Zoom call, and I was going, well, what's a Zoom call got to do with cycling? And he kind of patiently explained it to me, and
can you imagine?
You've done.
Can you imagine in any other situation in life agreeing to do a 14-hour Zoom call? I mean,
yeah, I'll host that. No problem. Yeah, no problem.
Well, I'm amazed at for me, at about the 11.5 hour mark, I was wanting. I just almost wanted to, I hadn't said anything for quite a while. You may have noticed, and I was just hiding away, very happy that someone else was doing the talking, because I was kind of beyond sensible speech at that stage. But we've got so many people involved. There's always somebody that's prepared to speak. I've been away for a couple of spells, a quarter of an hour or so, and one never knows what happens when you're away. But I don't think there's been a lot of silence today, has there? Even when you've gone off to spend some time with your kids and stuff like that, Ashley, I think somebody's just picked up the chat. So it's an amazing format, and it was interesting. I know, John, you're still there, probably in the background, and yes, if I don't know, one of the big problems I've got is doing this again. It's a huge emotional burden upon me. It's a wonderful thing to be involved with, but it's very difficult for me to sit back and just say, well, let's do it the same as last year. Everything's in place. It's all going to happen. Over Christmas, particularly, the kids were saying, well, what should we do, Dad? And I'd be sitting in the corner, tapping away on my phone or on the computer. And, it took a lot of time out of the family over the last few while. And we've now got this new app that Joe said, so let's start to look at next year. And I'm going, oh God, next year to do this again, it's a 2.5 month commitment, basically. I can't imagine doing it on an annual basis, but we'll have to find a way. And when we do, John, the rowing event's going to be in a plum position near the end.
I'm sorry, Rob. I'm sorry. I just, I just feel that I personally didn't put everything into it because I was constrained by time. And mate, all you need to do is to reach out to people like me, and I bet you there's about 30 other people on here that if you say we need to plan for next year now, then and we can get working on it now, and at least we can help you out, mate, so it doesn't have an impact on your family.
Well, that's very kind words, and actually, if you've got 11 months to think about the format of how the rowing might be. The World in a Day has been fantastic because I get the odd call from Nashi saying, can you get so-and-so or so-and-so? But actually, Nashi's address book's as full as mine is now. In fact, it's probably a lot fuller with all the people he's spoken to on his podcast. So he's managing to fill the roster up very easily. And if all the themed weekends were under the ownership of a team, that's probably the way to move it forward. We shouldn't really be having a management meeting when there's still poor old Davy's still hammering away on the bike as we're discussing how to structure next year's Dodier. But it's something that we will find a way to make it work. And we've got such an amazing community. And I remember when we finished last year, getting text messages from people saying, are we allowed to just keep using the app and recording our miles? And it was, feel free. All right, because we're feeling, we don't want to stop recording our miles. It's been a real driver for us. It's been a really positive thing through the lockdown. So I suppose we'll have to say this year the app will stay open. You can continue to record your miles if you want to, but another year. Well, as ever with these things, it's a new app with a few teething problems at the beginning. We've still got a few issues to sort out on it. We hopefully be able to expand it and make it a bit more groovy in some respects. So we've got 11 months to think about it. And what we might do now, while everything's fresh, is at the end of the event, John, we'll put the roster together. And I think we've lost Doogie now, but he and Nick do such an amazing job with the dinner party as it was last year, the curry night this year, and giving people ownership of the themed weekends. Next weekend's the really easy one. It's the dog walking, and it doesn't need anything at all. You just say to people, it's the dog walking weekend, and they all order their doggy leads and collars, and then it's the social media, smorgasbord of pictures of everyone's much loved dogs traipsing out on the morning of the Calcutta Cup. So it's a great weekend to have up your sleeve.
Rob, we can talk about next year as much as you want. Before that happens, we're jumping off cliffs. We're having a festival on call. And I think we should all buy tickets for Deacon Blue at Edinburgh Castle this summer and get as many snoods in that crowd jumping around Edinburgh Castle. That would be a good event as well.
I don't think we should buy tickets. I think Doogie should give us tickets.
You should comp us. Where we got there? Stephen Robinson just done 240. He's off for food and beer. Thanks for a great day. Well done. So
well done.
A lot of people starting to finish off now. So, and I also see there's people that are finished that have stuck around and watching. So thank you very much to everybody. I can see Carol's waving. There's lots going on still. So thank you to everyone. Russell in the gym up in Shetland. How are you guys? What are we at mileage? Can you talk to us? Can you hit the unmute button? I'm getting thumbs up.
Here we go.
Hello, how are you doing up in Shetland?
Good. Good, thank you.
What's the mileage? How have you enjoyed today?
Well, it's been fantastic. We've been working in amongst the miles and still been functioning in the gym up here. So we've not quite made it to 240 miles, but just shy of 240k for me. And 140k for me.
Well done, guys. Well done. Did you say there you've been working in the gym throughout the day as well? You've been working and cycling. Good on you. Well done. That's commitment.
It's usually a busy day, so.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us.
No problem.
Take care, okay? Keep going. Keep going. No, well done, guys. Well done, Davey. I can see Mark still there. John's still there. Carl, stick the mic on. You, as I say, and most people will know, you were the first person I spoke to this morning.
Keen. Oh yeah, I feel amazing. Yeah. I was going to actually delete it and go again. Yeah, no, that's about the toughest thing I've ever done. I only started riding at the start of lockdown. April 9th was my first ride, 2020. Okay. And kind of fueled a lot by seeing what Mark Beaumont was doing. And whilst not a patch, I mean, I couldn't do that another 78 times, I tell you. But yeah, no, it's been nice to be a part of it. Kind of a late start. I cottoned on to it quite late and had my eyes open to something I didn't know a great deal about. Yeah, and then very humbled by seeing like Davey's efforts and things like that, and tried to do as much awareness raising as I could in a short period of time. So yeah, I think there's a few larger donations going to come in because a few people had made the mistake of saying they would double if I made it. So I'm just pushing them for that now.
Yeah, you're calling them out on their offers. Well done.
Yeah, indeed.
But also, I mean, I would say that you said you were sort of late to the party, but we only announced this, I think, between Christmas and New Year, or was it just before Christmas? I can't remember. But
right,
it's not like there was enough time to train for it.
No.
Let's be realistic. If you were going for the 240 today, at that endurance pace, you can either do it or you can't. I mean, it's not something with 4 weeks training you're going to feel like a bag. But I think there is something about that ultra endurance pace where you can keep going if you fuel effectively and think your way through the task. I had a dip about between like 8 and 10 hours in. I don't know if you experienced something similar where.
Yeah, not so much the bonk. It was just a combination of knowing how much there was still to go, not quite seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, but all 3 contact points hurting like hell.
Yeah, it is. It is such a mental roller coaster, and I think it's almost impossible to stay completely switched on and the easy miles. And the funny thing about doing it on a turbo is it's not like there's headwinds or tailwinds. There's an absolutely consistent effort. So it is interesting because it is purely about what's happening between your ears. And isn't it interesting when you come through those dips? Nothing's actually changed except for the way you're thinking about it.
Yeah, I mean, I was down to 130 watts for about an hour, and there was nothing I could do about it until is she called Casey Cadence came along, and I gave it a burst of 600 watts to get on the pack, and held on there for a wee bit, and that kind of perked me up again. But yeah, generally in no man's land.
Mark, I need to jump in here. Is that Marcus in the background?
Yeah, we've got Marcus.
Marcus, come a bit closer or can we hear you from there? This is.
I don't know how good my microphone is. Just tell us if you can't hear us.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, Marcus, how are you, everyone? This is Marcus Stitz, who, like Mark, has also been round the world, but you did it slightly differently, Marcus, didn't you?
Yeah, I did a bit wrong here, a bit slower.
A bit slower. Marcus went round the world on the bike with a 1-gear bike, which is an incredible achievement. And Marcus, give us a bit of what you're doing with Mark at the moment. You've been discovering boundaries. You were in Spain last week. You're doing a lot of footage at the moment, a lot of drone footage and things. But give us a bit of background on what you two are working on.
Yeah, we were in Spain last week. I was mainly behind the camera. I had like 2 hours on the bike though as well, which was nice. And yeah, I'm working on an edit. Mark and I cycled the boundaries of East Lothian, Falkirk, Clackmannanshire, and Glasgow. And yeah, I'm just putting this into a documentary, which is going to be about 20 minutes long, I would presume. So yeah, it is. Yeah, I think we want to inspire people to kind of go out and don't have to venture too far away from home and have a proper adventure. Yeah, we had some great rides when we did that.
And it was also trying to explore bits of Scotland which are not kind of known for its riding. I mean, the Explore Your Boundaries title, we wanted to be a literal, as in like trying to literally figure out what's the closest you can get to the edge of each council boundary, and you're following these sheep tracks and trails and just finding a mad route. But Explore Your Boundaries is also a metaphor. It's also about close to home, but like pushing yourself and trying to do something genuinely adventurous. So yeah, it's been good fun. We're going to do some more this year. It's a bit of just a passion project, just something you can do. Go out, pick a council boundary. Take a day or two, depending on how long it is. I think if we take on the Highlands, it might take a little bit longer than Clackmannanshire, but we'll see.
Marcus, do you know about all that, or is that Mark just told you right now? You're going up into the Highlands, Marcus. You're gonna be like who was it earlier? Steve Bates coming through the darkness, freezing cold, soaking wet on one of Mark's adventures. Marcus, what about a tandem? Have you been on a tandem with Mark? Because Hank was telling us earlier on that it's a great experience.
No, we actually haven't. I have ridden the tandem about 3 years ago in Norway, but yeah.
And actually, Marcus was crewing for that on that GCN project. Marcus was crewing and doing photographs, so he was there. He saw the tears. He experienced it all.
It was pretty full on.
Full on experience. Hank explains that he had his head in the wrong places and had to feed Mark as they were cycling. So sounds like an interesting experience.
It was quite interesting. It was really difficult to get Hank if you do a front shot because Mark was basically covering all of Hank. Yeah, and much more.
When you're 6'3" and 90 kilos in a tandem, you just eclipse who's ever behind you.
Oh, absolutely. Now, we've got more people finishing. Darren Heath into unknown, into uncharted territory now. Good further than his previous best. Now, well done. He's putting the miles in. He's getting through all the distance. Who else? Richard Ellis is back with us. Richard, how are you? There he is. How are you?
Sorry, usual mouse. I am surviving.
I tell you, like you do throughout the Doddy Aid campaign, you've been behind the scenes messaging, reminding, doing all sorts of work. So good on you as always. You're just sort of sweeping up behind a few people, myself included. So thank you for everything, for keeping an eye on us and pointing us in the right direction.
So is it all fantastic day? Superb guests and superb stories, and well done to Caleb and Mika.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The youngsters and Caleb's still on. They're still going strong. Richard, well done. Keep going. As you mentioned, excellent guests and everything that's been going on today. I can see that Molly Hughes has joined, so I'll see if I can get her. There she is. Hello, Molly. How are you?
Hey, good. Thanks. How you doing?
I'm very well. Good. You have arrived at a very good time because there are a lot of people that have completed their 240 miles, but there are several still bashing through. And
yeah, my God, how are you all doing? What a day!
They're all okay. They've been on since 6 a.m. this morning. I've got my gallery here. We've got a lot of familiar faces. We've got some people that are really going through the pain barrier at the moment, but they're going to get to the end. Yeah. Molly, Skyla's here. She wants to give you a wave.
Hey, Skyla. Nice to meet you, family.
Have you got anything you want to say? You want to say hi to Molly?
Hi, Molly.
Hi, Skyla. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
You got any questions?
No.
What about Everest? How scary was Everest?
How scary was Everest?
That's a good question. At times, pretty scary. Like if the snow was if you thought the snow was going to avalanche, sometimes that was scary. And you've got to cross these like big crevasses, which were pretty terrifying. Because I've actually got a bit of a fear of heights, so I don't like heights very much. So when I was crossing the crevasses, that was definitely pretty scary.
That's a good one.
Put it back.
I'll take over.
Bye, Dad.
Okay, see you later.
Bye, Molly.
See you later.
Thank you, Molly. She's been waiting all day to say hello, so she's done really well. Molly, we're going to actually, because the way timings have worked, we've actually got JJ Chalmers I'm going to let in just now as well. So we'll have JJ in the conversation as well. But Molly, as I said, and I'll tell JJ, we've got to get the riders through the last part of this event. 240 miles is the target, and there's a lot of them still just going to creep up to that very, very soon. I'll just grab JJ. There he is.
Hello, mate.
Hello, mate. How are you?
Very good, thank you. How are you getting on?
We're fine. We've got Molly Hughes here as well, and Mark's still here. Mark's finished. He's had a change. So, JJ, I'm just saying we're on the home straight here. There's a lot of people who've completed the 240. You know, after last year, what it's like. There's been a lot of people going through the pain barrier, but a lot have completed, and we're almost there. So thank you to you both for joining us on what we're going to call the home straight now, because we're going to try and get people across the line. JJ, I'm going to have a quick chat with Molly first, and just a quick hello.
Go for it.
We'll jump in, and please do come in with any questions. When we start talking about the summit of Everest and things like that, I'm sure you'll start coming alive with lots of questions. So please just get involved in the conversation.
Absolutely. Let's do this.
But Molly, I've been telling everyone about you all day, obviously, up and down Everest twice, across the South Pole. Take us back to where that sort of, you know, the thirst for adventure. I mean, not just adventure, to take yourself to the highest point on earth. Where did that come from as a young girl?
Yeah, good question. So I grew up in Devon, like right on the south coast of Devon, as far from any mountains as you can get in the UK. So to finally, the first mountain I actually climbed was one called Mount Kenya in East Africa, which was incredible. I was 17, the first time I got to any kind of altitude, and it's just kind of around 5,000 meters. And it just completely gave me the bug. And I love pushing myself. I love the challenge of it. I love getting to the summit and looking down and seeing the kind of whole savannah and the clouds beneath you. And from that point, I just started climbing more and more mountains. And in my last year at uni, I wrote my dissertation in sports psychology, all about the psychology of climbing Mount Everest. And I found these 7 guys all around the UK, and I traveled from Bristol where I was studying and visited these 7 guys and was almost instantly hooked. Like the first guy I spoke to was this amazing businessman in London, and I was in this big scary office, and I was like 20 years old, like a total country bumpkin from Devon, and going into this big office in London and talking to this guy about Mount Everest and kind of walking through the Western Coombe and scaling the Lhotse face. I was like, shit, I don't want to just sit here and write about this. I want to go and see if I can see this with my own eyes, and if I'm lucky enough, maybe one day get to the top.
It's I mean, sitting here knowing your story, obviously I've heard it before. You've been on Instagram with me and things like that, but the daunting thought of scaling Everest and getting to that starting point, what was it? What was that journey like? Getting the sponsorship, getting the kit together, getting the mindset that when you're up there, when you're approaching the death zone and going across those valleys and gullies, how you're not going to just say, I'm out of here, you know, getting that mindset right. Everything you had to get ready for the start line. Yeah, what was that process like?
The prep for any of these expeditions is always much harder than like the actual expedition itself. It took maybe about 12 months of trying to get all the funding together, because I'm sure everyone knows Everest is like the most expensive mountain in the world. You can pay like 30 to 50,000 pounds just for your like, opportunity to try and climb it. So it took a long time to get all that funding together, writing like proposals to different corporates every week. And when I went the first time on the south side, I was 20 years old and I'd never done anything like this before. I didn't know what marketing was. I probably didn't know what PR stood for. So I just wrote these massive proposals and sent them out. And they were absolutely rubbish. So I got so many rejections. So many times I didn't hear from anyone. But the funding finally came through about 4 weeks before I was planning to go. So I had to kind of like put everything in place as much as I could, try and get my mind in the right place to take on the biggest thing I would ever climb, without actually knowing if I could actually go. So yeah, it was a really kind of challenging 12 months that I set myself.
And what was your team like that when you went up the south side? I think you said there for the first attempt. How many people are in your team? What's the process and the plan there?
Yeah, so the south side was really different to the north side. So I did the south side when I was 21, and I went back and did the north side when I was 26. On the south side, I didn't know that many people kind of in the big high altitude industry. So I found the most famous guide I could find, who's this guy called Kenton Cool, who sounds like the kind of guy you'd want to go climb Everest with. And he had a team the year I was going. So I kind of got in touch with him. We met a few times, went climbing a few times. I joined his team, and there were 6 clients. We were the clients trying to get to the top, and then 6 Sherpa guides as well for the summit push. So kind of on the summit push, it kind of came down to basically just myself and my Sherpa guide, Lap Onju Sherpa. And we had the final kind of push from around 6,000 meters to the top and back down again, just as a team of 2 of us.
It's a fair old process that. See, when you talk about Kenton Cool, how many times has he been up Everest?
When I was with him, it was like 10 or 11, but that was a few years ago. So I don't know. Is it 12, 14?
Yeah. It's an incredible amount. And what about, just while it's come to my mind of people that have scaled the Everest, what did you think of Nims Purja's efforts and the series, the documentary on Netflix?
Yeah, incredible. I haven't actually watched the documentary yet, I will admit to that. But obviously I've followed him on Instagram throughout the whole journey, and just like superhuman, basically, the way he can get up and do that many 8,000 meter peaks in such a short space of time. Like after I climbed Everest and spent that much time in the death zone, my body was pretty wrecked for like a couple of months afterwards. Just that like physiological effect of being in such a low oxygen place. And he did them one after another. And he did a lot of them on a hangover as well, which was incredibly impressive.
Wait, JJ, I saw you nodding there about you're obviously familiar with Nims' story.
Yeah, I know Nims. Not extremely well, but we sort of run around the same circles. My wife is a massive high altitude fan in particular, and that was my Christmas gift for her, was a video from Nims actually. That absolutely made her Christmas. Listen, I'd love to ask though, I mean, what was the ultimate motivation, like when you're having to dig deep, you know, as people are here, because this is obviously a physical challenge, but of course it's a mental challenge. You need something in the back of your head that's going to tell you, actually, you know, these negative voices in my head, I'm going to conquer them. What is it? Is it, you know, I'm not going to let everybody down that's backed me? Is it I want to join this unique club, or is it simply I just want to see the view from up there?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and I think that idea has kind of developed in my head. Like when I was there, it was hard to kind of work out, and I think I've realized that it's definitely got to be something deep inside of you. Like if you're worrying about the sponsors you've got, and you're like, I've got to get to the top because these guys are supporting me, or if you're worrying about people back home supporting you, and you're like, I've got to get to the top because these people are kind of relying on me. That almost gets you into a bit of a dangerous mindset. It's got to really come from something deep inside of you that you want to really like prove to yourself that you can do it. And I think that first time on the South Side for me, it's a bit weird. Like I was young, I was super young, I was 21 at the time. And throughout like school and uni, I was like a really shy kid. I would never like stand up and talk in front of the class. I would never put my hand up in class. So I always had this kind of shyness, super introvertedness that I kind of felt deep down that I could do something, but I could never have the confidence to like shout about it. So I think when I was there on Everest, I knew that I had this, but I knew I had this kind of inner strength. So it was a process of kind of proving to myself, almost learning who I was at the age of 21. I could probably have picked maybe a safer or an easier route to kind of work out who I was. I could have gone on a gap year, should probably have done that. But no, it was amazing. I mean, during those 2 months, yeah, I learned so much about myself. I got so much confidence just from almost like proving yourself wrong that you can actually do something that big.
It is amazing, and not to take anything, I do want to just quickly go back because it's been such a prominent documentary. You work in those, or you've been in those circles with NIMS, JJ.
Yeah.
That sort of temperament, that military temperament that he's got. Talk us through that mindset of what when Molly talks about the death zone, when NIMS seems to climb a mountain, he's usually sort of setting the lines and then rescuing people down while breaking world records.
I mean, the thing first of all is NIMS is not human. I mean, he is on another planet, and of course he has this unbelievable mindset that comes from his time in the special forces. But I think also he's part of a movement which is much bigger than him as an individual as well. When you look at the work that he's done for for the Sherpa community, for the Nepalese community, the 14 Peaks was incredible. But he became the first man or team, he would be quite clear about, to climb K2 in the winter. So that was his next sort of challenge. And he did that with an all Nepalese team. And these Sherpas who have, so much of the time have been somewhat overlooked in the sort of accomplishments of mountaineering. They've climbed these mountains over and over again. This is their backyard. So yeah, he's driven by something that's so much bigger than himself. But yeah, I mean, he has taken, I'm sure Molly say a lot more about this, but he seems to have taken the climbing world by storm. Yes, he's got this natural ability to do it. You combine that with the background that he's got, the motivation and the want to, do the impossible. I mean, that is I say lethal combination, but I mean it in the right way, because it could go disastrously wrong, but it clearly isn't for him. But yeah, I mean, the other thing you point out as well is the fact that, in that documentary, he's not just achieving this, he's going into the death zone on occasions and saving blokes along the way. And that is, as I say, the man is of another world. And we yeah, he's not human. He can't be.
Molly, I think you said as well, and a lot of the stuff he does, he's got a hangover. He talks about the partying in Everest Base Camp, and they celebrate everything. And then he talks about NIMS speed. NIMS speed's the way he gets up the mountains. It's just incredible. Incredible. And Molly, you've been there. You've been in the death zone. And it's something I know you talk about a lot, but it's something that is so interesting to people that have never been that high or anywhere near it. What is that environment like with the death zone and, going past the bodies that are up there?
Yeah, so the death zone is that area above 8,000 meters. So there's 14 mountains in the world that are over 8,000 meters. NIMS did them all in 7 months, which was mental. But basically, this area above 8,000 meters, there's such little oxygen that human life or any life can't survive for long. Your body's like rapidly deteriorating on itself whilst you're up there. And like physically, it kind of feels, people do kind of compare it like breathing through a straw, even with an oxygen mask on, an oxygen canister. Because your oxygen canister is like a mixture of bottled oxygen and ambient air. So it just gives you like a little bit of a push, a little bit of like a warming effect on your body as well. But it's not like being normal. It really is like taking one little step stopping and catching your breath for a few seconds, one little step, catching your breath, and everything slows down. It probably takes you like 20 minutes, 25 minutes to put your big high altitude boots on when you're waiting at the camp, the final camp in the death zone. It takes a good hour or more to like melt enough snow and ice for a litre of water. Every smaller process that should be easy is just so hard. Eating, drinking, talking, communicating with your team and other climbers. It definitely feels like somewhere we shouldn't be.
Yeah. What are your memories of the summit when you're actually up there? What goes on up there? How many people can get up there at one time? Because we've obviously seen all the queues, and Nims obviously took that famous photo that he didn't think would go viral. But what's that like right on the summit?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm super lucky that I've had the opportunity to be on the summit twice. So once in 2012, once in 2016, and both experiences were like really, really different. The first time in 2012 was that first year where there was the picture on the front page of the Daily Mail of that huge queue of climbers going up the Loxie face and onto the Hillary step. So I was caught up in that crowd on the way down from the summit. And it was pretty challenging. We kind of got up before everyone else because we knew it was going to be busy. But coming down, I got stuck on the Hillary step for a couple of hours waiting for them. So the whole summit night was pretty traumatic. It took far too long. We were in that death zone for far too long. My oxygen supplies ran out at one point. So yeah, the first time in 2012 was absolutely traumatic. And that's kind of one reason why I wanted to go back to the mountain, because I'd like studied this mountain for so long and I had a bit of a love affair with this mountain. But I'd seen some of its really good points, but I'd also seen the worst things you can imagine in terms of the queuing and the bodies and all that kind of stuff. And I knew about the north side and this kind of more remote, more beautiful north side that not so many people go to. It's definitely harder, more technically. I spent another 2 months on the mountain, and that summit night, getting up to the summit that time, on the 16th of May 2017, was epic. It was me and my small little team. There was 4 of us, one other Russian team around, but there's only kind of maybe like 4 or 5 of them. So there's a really small amount of people around the summit that night, and it was beautiful. We saw the sunrise over the whole of the world. Mountains as far as your eyes can see, the Himalayas. You see the curvature of the earth as you look out. Yeah, I'm glad I went back for the second time because that really solidified that Everest is, to me, something really special.
JJ, how are you with queues? What would you be like in that queue?
I mean, I'm nice and British. It's, you know, it would seem so frustrating, that idea that sort of what you're part of is this big piece of logistics. You know, it becomes much more than, you know, an individual challenge. But I completely understand why that happens, because everybody should be striving for, you know, greatness and to climb their own Everest. And it just so happens that for lots of people, it literally is Everest. And of course, summit windows are tight and whatnot. But yeah, it must be so frustrating to be like, actually, all I need to do is just get there. And then on the way back down in particular, it's like, I need to get there now, or else, you know, my life's hanging in the balance. But the thing I've got to do is wait for it all. Yeah, I can't quite imagine standing in a queue that's that important.
Yeah, it's almost more like survival than frustrating. And I guess if was in the queue on the way up, then I would be really frustrated. But because I got up first and then met them all on the way down, like blocking the way down the Hillary steps, so I had to wait for like 45 minutes, wait for another half an hour as I kind of got down past all these climbers. That was scary because you're on limited time with the amount of oxygen you got. So yeah, that was definitely scary and into kind of survival mode. And you feel a little, when you're that hypoxic, when you've got that little oxygen going around, you feel a little bit drunk or a little bit like you're not really there. So decision making is harder. That's where all the trouble comes from. People are hypoxic, too many people there.
In fairness, Nashi, you ask what I'm like with queues. I'm actually terrible. Like, I'm one of those people that would rather drive the long way than sit in a queue. Do you see lots of people turning back that are just going, right, that's it. It's the dream is dead, and I've got to turn around? I mean, did you see people doing that?
Not that night. No, definitely not. That night I was there, 4 people did die. Kind of after I'd got down past them all, of various reasons. I think somebody got snow blind, different kind of high altitude illnesses. But mainly due to the fact that people just got slowed down. Like, you can get to the summit reasonably quickly. Not quickly, it takes 8, 9, 10, 11 hours. But if there's queuing, that just slows the whole process down. So yeah, it's dangerous for sure.
But are people, you know, people are just going, actually making the decision to go you know, I'm going to come back and do this another time, or just say, well, I had my shot and unfortunately I can't make it? Did you witness people having to make that decision to turn around and say, I'm out?
There was actually one, you don't witness it, totally. You definitely don't. There's so many people there, most people spent their own money to get themselves there. They trained for however many years. They're definitely in. There was one American guy who was kind of in my loose, like wider team, who kind of disappeared behind us. And at one point he turned around and went back to camp after maybe 3 or 4 hours of climbing because his toes were really cold and he was worried he was going to get really bad frostbite in his toes. And at the time I was like, shit, I can't believe you did that. I can't believe you turned around when we were kind of pretty close. But actually thinking about it, like the bravest decision you can possibly make to save his toes over thinking about going to the summit. But no, not many people make that decision as you get closer and closer, maybe earlier on in the trip.
Molly, did you ever have that? Did you ever have a worry of frostbite in fingers or toes, or even in the South Pole, which you accomplished as well? Was there ever moments that you thought, well, hold on a minute here, what's going on?
Yeah, unfortunately, I got a little bit in my right finger when I was stuck in that queue. So when I was stuck on the Hillary step in that queue, my oxygen ran out for a little bit of time, and I got a bit of frostbite just in this finger. I also get a little bit of my cheeks. You can probably see I've got quite chubby cheeks, so they always get the wind and the cold. So in Antarctica, I had to put like big, like blue, like physio tape on them to kind of cover them up. So a little bit of my cheeks, a little bit there, but it's all fine now.
No. And see, sorry, I'm not familiar. You say snow blindness. That's a killer. What's snow blindness?
So just going blind from how bright the snow is. So the sun reflects off the snow, hits your retina, burns your retina, and kind of blacks out your eyes for a certain amount of time. It can just last for a few hours if you look after it well. Right. You've basically got to go get in your tent and cover your eyes for up to like 24 hours to let it recover. But obviously that's not too easy when you're heading towards the top of the world or just down from it. But yeah, you've always got to wear your goggles or your sunglasses.
Yeah, and
even in the Alps you can get it as well.
And those 4 people that died when you were there, was that up in the death zone? I mean, literally those bodies will still be there because you just can't get people down from the death zone. Is that right?
Yeah, you can bring people down sometimes. If it's on the south side, it's a little bit easier to bring bodies down because it's not quite steep. But on the north side, you've got the second step, which is this massive kind of vertical rock section. And getting bodies down that is really hard. So above the second step on the north side, there's lots. Yeah, like I think I saw 5 on that side. Just because you imagine how hard it would be. It's quite morbid, sorry for everyone. But when a body freezes, it's like rigid and so hard, and carrying that, and it's super heavy, and carrying that down just would put so many people at risk, like your whole team. I think if I died up there, I'd want to just be like pushed off the edge or something.
Oh wow! What a thought!
That's brutal, honestly.
Yeah. Well, Molly, we talk about the summit, we talk about the death zone, but what about the walking across the ladders that we see, the big crevasses, the shaky legs, the guys tying them with ropes, and you're thinking, he's tying that to ice. What's that like when you've got to stand and take that first step onto those ladders? Terrifying. Yeah, of course it is.
Most of them are on the south side, on the Nepalese side, because you go through something called the Khumbu Icefall, which is this amazing, beautiful place, but deadly scary. And you've got this team of Sherpas called the Icefall Doctors, and it's basically their job every season to go in and spend, most days. Well, they set all the ladders first because the crevasses move every year. They'll get bigger, they get smaller. So every season at the beginning, the Icefall Doctors will go in and set these ladders across the crevasses and kind of maintain them throughout the season. It's literally like one of the most dangerous jobs in the world, I would say. Because you're in the firing line of many mountains, many seracs dropping onto the icefall as well. But yeah, getting to the edge of them for me as a climber is terrifying. I think I told Skylar I don't like heights that much, so they were pretty bad.
And are these things just like bottomless from where you're standing?
Yeah. To your eye, totally bottomless. Maybe 50 meters, 60 meters. And some are like quite narrow, and some are 3, 4, 5 meters wide. Not a nice prospect.
And
what way to get started?
Yeah. But compared to the death, it sounds like I'm fascinated by death and all this, but it's just such a scary place. But compared to the death zone, how many people lose their lives on those crossing those crevasses?
I don't know the figures. When I was there, one person did. So one Sherpa guide on the south side was coming back from Camp 1. I think he'd like dropped some stuff off or was doing something up there. He came back down to base camp. And for some reason, he didn't clip into one of the safety lines, because you do have a safety line that runs across. So if you fall and the ice screws hold, you'll just kind of be hanging over a big crevasse. But this poor guy, he didn't clip it for some reason. I don't know if he was rushing to get down or something. And he slipped and fell down to the 50 odd meters and unfortunately died. But the rest of his team managed to get down there and bring his body out, which was really good because they always want to kind of be buried and have almost like a funeral service within the Buddhist traditions. That's super, super important for them and everyone on the mountain. So they got his body out and flew it home, which was great. But you did see the mess of it afterwards. It was kind of covered in blood where they got him out, and yeah, we had to cross that the next day, which was pretty harrowing for sure.
Wow. Well, let's lighten the mood. JJ, you said when you text me, I'm just filming. I'm just finished filming Nashi. I'm on my way. What's on at the moment? What are you filming?
Running all over the place, really. I mean, the next big job, obviously, is the Winter Olympics, which are coming up. But today, tell you what, I was doing a film for the One Show, really lovely one, about a Royal Marine cadet, of all things. And funnily enough, I think this kid had been, I think he was born, so he was born in 2005. So I reckon I joined the Marines before he was even born. But it felt like a bit of a trip down memory lane because, yeah, this is a young 16-year-old Royal Marine cadet who's thinking about joining the regular corps and, you know, following his dream of becoming a Royal Marine Commando. And that is what I did 16 years ago. And it was kind of tremendous, full circle. So yeah, lovely day with him. But yeah, I'm just on the grind out here working. It's great.
Put the time in. I saw recently that you were in the cold water with the wild swimming girls.
Yeah. I did a feature for Landward, and I will point out straight away, you know, they were in their bathing suits and whatnot, going for proper style.
You were in a wetsuit. I saw
fully
you.
Neoprened up. Absolutely. I don't do cold water anymore. Partly, I'll get my excuses in because, you know, because of my injuries, my hands just stop working instantly as soon as they get cold. But also, I've had enough cold water in my life. Oh, I didn't post about it, but I did do the old Doddy 8 dunk on January 1st. I will say that. But I was in and out in a flash. I've done cold water, and I've couldn't pay me enough.
Good on you. No, I saw that, and it was the launch of their book and everything you were doing. But they've been very well received up here, obviously, with their book and everything they do for women's health and getting women together and Women's Day. It's a fantastic effort the girls do with the wild swimming. Yeah, and it was just a lovely pair. We filmed it on a Saturday morning, I think, and it was a lovely thing to do on a Saturday morning. I actually, in all honesty, thanks to the neoprene, I really did enjoy it, actually. Like, it was, you know, it was all the things they describe it as, sort of euphoric and whatnot. And I've got friends that are obsessed with wild swimming. It's not necessarily my thing, but having had a crack at it, I totally see why people catch the bug and they're obsessed with it. And I can see why in this current climate, over the last couple of years, it's become so popular. And yeah, the two of them, you know, just encouraging people to do it the right way, I suppose, is the big thing. You know, do it safely, do it as part of a community. It was lovely. Absolutely, it looked like a great day. Molly, I'll come back to you now. We've talked Everest, we've talked Death Zone summits, the South Pole. That was quite an adventure. How did that one come onto your radar, and what made you sort of take on that challenge?
Yes, so that was 2019, 2020, just before COVID hit and we were pushed into lockdown. I wanted to go to Antarctica, basically. It's this kind of vast, incredible continent that I wanted to like see with my own eyes. But I didn't really know what I wanted to do or how I wanted to get there. I could have gone and maybe worked for one of the companies down there, British Antarctic Survey. You need a lot of money to go as a tourist, and I've never had any money. So then I thought I could do another big expedition and try and get a sponsorship once again. So I did a lot of research and realized that if I skied from the edge of the continent, so I called Hercules Inlet, kind of where the sea ice meets the land mass of the continent, all the way to the South Pole. It's like 700 miles, 1,100 kilometers. And if I did that, I would be the youngest woman to do it at the age of 29. So then I had a unique selling point, which I could then try and get sponsorship. That was that unique selling point. It's all about having something that you can attract some sponsors with. Went down that avenue, took a lot of training, a lot of time in Norway and out in Scotland and in Greenland, and then went and started the trip in November 2019.
I saw you pulling tires along beaches and all sorts of things for the sort of raw training for what you were going to be doing on the adventure. What was it like? What was the weight of your trailer? What do you call it?
Trailer. I wish it was a trailer. My sledge or my pole.
Sledge. That'll be it. So it's been a long day. It's been a long day. The trailer.
Yeah, the trailer was like 105 kilograms in the end. I'm not good at packing light, and I was quite worried about like losing something or not having enough pairs of socks. So yeah, it was really heavy, 105 kilograms.
When you say losing something, again, crevasses and whatnot, these hidden crevasses out there are the big threat, aren't they? Because it looks all pristine and white to us, but you don't see what lies beneath.
Yeah, like it looks really nice, and people always say like, isn't it like flat or isn't it downhill to the South Pole? But unfortunately, it's uphill the whole way because you start close to sea level. The poles are like 2,800 meters. So it's like a slow uphill slog for 58 days. Yeah, a lot of crevassing around the kind of mountain ranges. A lot of sastrugi, which is like waves formed in the snow. Some can be maybe 6 feet high. So pulling my sled, that I nicknamed Boudica, up and down them was, yeah, really painful.
Incredible, but we've got incredible scenes here. What's going on? Rob Wainwright's back on his bike.
Yeah, we just saw Davey over the line.
Rob's been dragging me across the line for the last. Okay, Rob, thank you.
Where's Davey? Are you finished, Davey?
I'm done.
You're done. Where is it?
Done.
Oh, there he is. There he is. Captain Edinburgh, Captain Davey, the main man. Well done, Davey.
Go on, lads. Well done.
Thanks, guys. Big day in the saddle. Big day in the saddle.
Good on you, Rob. I didn't notice. Apologies. You've jumped on. You superhero. You.
I'll be honest. We dragged him for about a mile, and then he got his final wind, and I was up on the limit, just trying to keep up with him. So it was a strong finish, Davey. Well done.
Thank you, Rob.
Oh, good
on you. It's been an incredible trip for everyone. I'm going to give a big shout out to my man James Porteous from Electric Spirit. He's been. I think you've done over 400k, haven't you, James?
Where is he?
I just literally about 0.1 of a kilometer over 400k.
Huge effort. Huge effort.
Incredible. Well done. Well done, mate. What's your story? How are you putting in those sorts of numbers?
Well, it's usually Davey's fault on this kind of stuff because he massively undersells it and says things like, "Oh, do you want to go out for a little ride?" And then it turns out it's 4 laps around Arthur's Seat with Mark Beaumont. So the key thing for him is to leave out key details to make it sound much easier than it is. But I did 300k last year for it, and then figured this year to do 400. So, well, I was going to do the 240, and then there was like a really random number at the end of the kilometer, so it annoyed me, and I was like, might as well do 400.
As you do, Davey. Like John the Mad Giraffe was saying earlier, you've got some friends that will go at the end of the earth for you, mate. And
yeah, I know it's been and James Porteous is one of them, and it makes everything more gratifying and motivating to have this incredible network, this peloton around us, and that's what Doddy 8 and finding the right fight from MD is all about. It makes everything so worthwhile and a lot easier.
Good on you, mate. Well, here, thank you as always for sharing your story. I said it earlier, you're an inspiration. Keep going. You've dragged everyone across the line with you, and there's still a few people. We'll find out. We'll get a bit of chat with the rest of the guys later to find out who's still got how far to go. But well done, Davey. Go and get a rest. Go and get, what's it? Fish and chips, pizza? What are you going for?
I think actually we got some, although I've been grazing all day, I'm not on Jelly Babies, pizza and the like, but I think I've got some lamb chops sizzling next door. So it's time to open maybe a beer first, then a nice bottle of Brolo to celebrate.
Go and enjoy, Davey. Well done.
Well, Nash, you will see. Again, we need to plan the vertical mile.
Well, this is perfect because Molly is the director of Ocean Vertical. She's got the T-shirt on just now. So, Molly, I was going to get to that because Davey, I think, did I mention it to you the other day when I was on the phone to you that Davey's coming co-steering?
Yeah.
We want to make it a Doddy Aid event. Captain Rob, who was on a minute ago, said it's got to be done before the end of Doddy Aid. So there's a bit of pressure on. But we do want to try and jump. We do want to try and jump a vertical mile. So between Ocean Vertical and Doddy Aid and myself, let's work that out.
How about we take the boat out to Bass Rock? That might help.
Yeah, there's a bit more height there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that'd be the key, finding the biggest height we can to do it.
Biggest jump.
Least amount of time.
No, there's been quite a lot of Is that
3
Rob?
meters is quite enough. 3 meters is quite enough.
Oh, there he is. There he
We
is.
just we need lots of people.
We need lots of volume, but we'll get that planned. Rob's been championing it all day, and he's telling me, you know where you do it in North Berwick.
Yeah.
He's wanting me to go there as soon as I can, just to jump off it, just to satisfy him. Because last time I did a video, I was standing on the edge of it, and he texted me saying, "Nash, it'd be a bit better if you just jumped off it." You know, so next time, Rob. Next time, Rob. Davey, I'm going to let you go. Go and get those chops.
All the best, guys. Thanks,
Well
everyone.
done.
Well done.
Well done.
Well done, mate. Well done, Skipper. JJ, the rest of obviously Winter Olympics, everything. You got a busy year ahead.
Yeah, Winter Olympics kicks off in less than a week, and then I think I'm probably going to blink and it'll be Christmas. Obviously we've got quite a big sporting year. We've got an Invictus Games in The Hague in April. Got the Commonwealth Games coming to Birmingham as well. So really exciting things to be involved with. And actually, I mean, Invictus is a delayed event, but actually the other events, we're now getting back onto the normal sporting calendar, hopefully, like with these Winter Olympics. So yeah, I mean, that's exciting. And then me, I like to get kept busy by all sorts of stuff. And if I'm not doing that, I've got 2 kids and they keep me busy as well. So, no rest for the wicked.
That's it. You just keep going, don't you?
Yeah.
Awesome. And Molly, can you tell us a wee bit about the project that you've been working on recently? You've been going around Scotland?
Yeah, Blue Scotland.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it was a lockdown idea to write a book because I started paddleboarding and I realized there was no kind of clear guide to paddleboarding spots across Scotland. So I thought I might as well write one. And it was a lockdown idea where you think it's going to be quite easy, but actually I've spent like the last 6 months traveling as much as I could to different places, the islands, the Highlands, every coast of Scotland, finding different paddleboard locations. But it's also kind of developed to also talk about surfing, sea kayaking, and wild swimming as well. So it's a guidebook to the blue spaces of Scotland and kind of weaving in the theme of blue health and how good it is for us to be near, on, or even in blue spaces, water, lochs. And in Scotland, we've got some absolutely mega ones, like incredible places.
Was there anywhere that you didn't expect to be so beautiful? Anywhere you'd heard about and you'll go and you'll get the photos, but when you got there, you were blown away?
Yeah, like honestly, almost anywhere. There was a few that I've done that like.
Everest twice.
Oh yeah, there's some that level ones. For people that are just getting into it, and then I've got the really kind of mega ones that are like bucket list destinations. So in July we managed to get out to St Kilda, which was one of the coolest places I've been in the world, not only Scotland but in the whole world. It's this archipelago of islands right in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, like far off the coast of the Outer Hebrides, and it's incredible, stunning, beautiful, but also the most kind of interesting human history that we've probably got here in Scotland.
Incredible. And when can we expect that? Is the book complete, or is it with the publishers?
Yeah, I've handed it in, going through the kind of first edits at the moment. So hopefully it'll be on the shelves in September, if all goes to plan.
Fantastic. Well, to both of you, you've been on for longer than I said I would ask you for. I'm really so appreciative that you've taken the guys almost to completion. You got Davey, team captain, to the end of the journey. We're going to stick around and I'm going to check in with a few of the riders. But thank you so much for joining us, Molly, JJ. It's been brilliant.
Listen, I've done nothing, pal. Done nothing compared to all these legends.
Yeah,
you guys keep going. You're absolutely smashing it, and you're getting through those desperate finishing miles, but it's going to be so worth it at the end. It's all about the bragging rights.
Hold on, I can see Mark Beaumont's thrown up thumbs up and everything. Mark, what's happening? What are you eating?
Here to talk about the nice cheese board that we've got.
I see that. You got a cheese board.
Well, you're allowed to spoil yourself after a 240-mile ride.
He's got a domestic goddess.
That's unfair. I'm spoiling myself. Nikki's spoiling us.
Nikki, how's today been for you as the crew?
It's been good, actually. It's been nice.
Yeah.
It's been a lot easier than it has in the past. I don't know why. Maybe the children are older and Mark's a bit more resilient. But
I wouldn't lean on that saddle. Let's not talk about that right now, Rob.
Let's not go there. I'm just ignoring what I've done.
No, it's been a great day, brilliant day.
You need the team, don't you, to look after you on days like today. And yeah, as I say, we have run this event before, but there's no easy shift like that. And, you know, I'm just so impressed with people who have never done a distance like this, who genuinely went into it, you know, loving the concept of it, you know, figuring out, you know, in the course of it, they could do it. I went into it knowing I could do it, and it's still hard.
That's it. But I can see a man that is on. I didn't realize he was on. He looks like he's doing some DIY in the garage. Steve Bate, are you listening? Are you listening to this?
He might be doing some joinery.
Is he doing some joinery? Steve.
He does some amazing, like, woodcrafting, woodwork.
Aloha, folks. I just thought I'd jump on at the end just to say congratulations and hear people finishing. It's always a great time. But yeah, I'm just I'm messing around doing a bit of wood carving. So I've got a here we go. I'll see if I can hold it up. So I've got this techie thing that I'm carving.
Awesome.
Just been working on the body of that. So yeah, here we go. What's that? Sorry?
Have you got any of your other stuff that's finished?
I do not in here, I don't think. Upstairs, I've got a couple of little figures that I've carved in the last week. I could go and grab them for you if you like.
Yeah, go and do that. A man of many talents.
Yeah, if you follow Steve on Instagram, it's an interesting mixture of fat biking, which is not me being rude, that's the thing, and fat biking, adventures, and wood carving. It's a good combination. You'd appreciate it with your caveman sort of interests, Nashi.
Is the fat biking the fat tires that I see on the beach with sort of going along the sand and stuff? Is that fat biking?
Yeah, they're extraordinarily fat tires, like twice the width of a normal mountain bike. And,
Nashi.
Yeah. Who's that?
I'm just going to break in here and thank you most profusely for your mammoth shift today. And I have a bath and dinner waiting for me. So I am going to drift quietly away with a huge thank you to everyone that's taken part, both, you know, entertaining us as we ride and riding and fundraising. What an amazing day it's been. Keith behind the scenes, we don't see him. The odd complaint to tell people not to swear or have live music in the background that we haven't got a license for. But Keith and the team behind, thank you so much. Nashi, as ever, what a stint you've done. And Mark, for making it all happen, coming up with the idea, or making the idea by going around the world in 80 days. Superb. And I look forward to looking at the fundraising totals in a wee while. So thank you very much. It's bath time for Bobby.
Thank you, Rob. Well done to you. Thanks for everything. Thanks for everything that you do. What a great day.
It's been great. Thanks a lot. Enjoy your beer, Mark.
See you later.
So
yes, Steve, what have you got?
Here you go. So this is a wee nod to Glasgow actually. So started covering these Maui heads and put a little traffic code on the top of him as a every time I go to Glasgow, there's always a statue with a cone on its head. So so that was kind of the first thing I started messing around with. And then I started playing about is a wee owl that I've carved and painted, bit daft. And these guys I've kind of been messing around with this week. So this is a little picture of my brother, really, who's a carpenter. So a little dude with a hammer, with his butt cheeks hanging out. So there's him, and then there's I did a lumberjack to match him. So messing around with a whittling knife, making a mess, carrying wood chips through my house, which my wife doesn't appreciate. But hey, you know.
And is this just a hobby, or is it a business, a future business, or?
I'm just messing around, really. Like I said earlier, I'm a carpenter by trade, and you know when you build houses and staircases and kitchens and things. Everything has to be like square, straight, and plumb, and it's all very kind of very dull and boring and straight and stuff, which is good because you want cupboards to close and doors to close, right? But I think when it comes to carving, it's it's free reign, anything goes. So I kind of like that aspect of it, just hacking into stuff and having a go. And and like the ticky stuff. So I carved I can turn this around actually. There's a big head in my you see that?
Yeah.
So that's in my garage that I carved earlier this year as well. Just like I like learning new stuff and learning new skills, and I like clearly wasting time.
But I suppose when you're not training or when you're not getting up to those sort of high levels of intensity, that must be quite a relaxing hobby. Just something you can squirrel away. You know, you put your training in, you're eating right, you're doing things right, and then you can put your mind to something else.
Yeah, absolutely. Like a lot of guys on the team will sit in front of Netflix. Certainly a lot of the younger guys, and that's how they recover. I mean, really, it's funny as a professional athlete, I think you get paid to recover. That's the deal, really. You train hard, but then you have to sit down and waste a load of time and let your body kind of adapt to that. So we're paid to recover. So yeah, I like to fill my time with stuff that is like enjoyable. Like, don't get me wrong, like I'll sit down and watch a film and stuff, but doing that every day and sitting on Netflix all day every day is just a bit dull, isn't it? So it's just learning a new skill and keeping the NHS busy when I cut myself. So hey.
Now, earlier on, obviously, having Olympians, what's happened for the second year running is when we have conversations on this World in a Day event, we have Olympians talking to each other. So when I got to sit back earlier and listen to you talking to Steve Redgrave, it was fantastic. Have you got any other sort of funny, crazy stories of Olympic Village and things that go on at Olympics that are maybe behind the scenes that we're not overly familiar with?
Probably none that my teammates will appreciate me sharing.
And remember, this is going out live before you tell anything.
I mean, just in terms of experiences, right? Which is what I think is super important in life for me, anyway. It's like it's going through a process and having an experience. And this year at the Games in Tokyo, we lost our Paralympic title in the pursuit. Adam and I, we won silver. After winning gold in Rio, so that was a bit hard to take. And then we went out on the road, and we're still current world champions. There's a rainbow jersey somewhere up behind there that you probably can't see, but we're world time trial champions at the moment, and the course suited us. Everything was like, just going in the right direction. We love the course. We were fast on it. Put a load of work into it, and then come race day, we crashed on the first lap, coming out of the chicane. So I was on the Fuji Speedway. So super fast, wide open, great for tandem racing. And literally 5 minutes into our race, exiting the chicane, the bike just disappeared from underneath us at 35 miles an hour. So kind of sliding across the tarmac. And obviously once we stopped, we jumped up, we've got a following car. They chucked the bike off. So we jumped on that and carried on. But it was pretty clear, I think, after, coming around for the second lap, coming back through that chicane. And I remember saying to Adam, my pilot, I was like, don't worry, mate, you've got this. You're the best pilot in the business here, mate. You've got this. And trying to give him some confidence. And, he was, I don't know if anyone saw it or remembers it, but he was missing half the skin suit. Like, we lost a lot of skin. And, it was a pretty bad crash. And we crept through that chicane like a couple of old men. Like, it was pathetic. And I knew then it was just, his confidence was gone, and we might as well get off. And so when we called it a day at the end of that second lap and got off. It's the first race we've crashed out of in 8 years. And when I got off the bike, I didn't actually realize how bad Adam was, but the whole palm of his hand was gone. Like, it was just raw with skin where it slid across the tarmac on his hand. And not to mention, like, all down the side and stuff. So it was a bad day. And I think, like, I'm not super emotional, but like, I just couldn't stop crying. Like, it was really bizarre. And where I was sat in the pit, and there's a whole wall of bikes and tours with the whole team warming up, because we were one of the first bikes to go out. And because we're kind of old guys. You know, people seem to respect us for some stupid reason. And I realized that actually sat in front of all these youngsters who are preparing to go out and race, and some of them for the first time at this level, with me sitting there bawling my eyes out, wasn't really that appropriate for everyone else in the team. You know, it wasn't going to do them any good. So I got up and walked outside and was kind of trying to sort myself out in terms of like just trying to stop crying, because I knew it was pointless me crying. Like it was an absolute, you know, it wasn't going to change anything. And then I thought, oh dear, I wonder if my wife's just been watching that on TV and it was live on TV and she's seen me crash. I thought I better go and get my phone and message her. And as I walked back in, there's a young Scottish girl who's also a pilot, Jenny Hall, who's amazing, lovely young girl, really, really skillful bike rider. And she would just got off the turbo and was heading to the start line. And when I looked at her face, she looked absolutely terrified. She had spent the last 5 days following Adam and I round that chicane, trying to work out the fastest line. And here we've just been and binned it. So, you know, I looked at Jenny, I said, the course is absolutely fine, Jenny. We made a mistake, you know, give it death, give it everything, you know, don't hold back. And she was just like, oh, thanks, I really appreciate that. And off she went. And, you know, and one by one, you know, riders were going out. And this team that I'm a part of was just, there were some amazing performances coming out of there. And Ben Watson, it was his first games. He was the only one on our team at that point who had not won a medal. So everyone else in the team had come from the track, which we'd raced earlier. Everyone had won a medal, and Ben was the only one. His selection, a lot of people were a bit dubious about because he was a road-only rider. And he came round for his first lap of 3 and he was a minute ahead of the field. And when you time trial, it's kind of, it's a really funny thing because you can go out really hard, blow to pieces, and then like get absolutely smoked. So everyone was like, oh God, has Ben gone out too hard? Second lap, he came around, still a minute ahead of the field. And, you know, at that point, I'm thinking, I think he's going to win this. And then you realize, well, I'm hanging over the barrier, hadn't even got changed out of my skin suit, because this is probably, you know, half an hour, 40 minutes after we crashed. Adam's in with the doctor getting patched up. And I realized, you know, that sometimes while you're having maybe the worst day of your life in terms of your you know, career, other people are about to have the best day of their lives, you know, and actually you can't, you being down and disappointed and frustrated that you aren't on the top step today, you know, you can't take that moment away from your teammates. And, you know, Ben went on to win. He won his first gold medal in his first Paralympic race, which was incredible. A couple of days later, he backed it up and won a second gold medal. So he answered all the critics, you know, and it was just incredible. So, you know, it's a really funny thing racing at that level, because you just, you know, it brings you the highest of highs, and, you know, and obviously when you crash out, they're very much the lowest of lows. But, you know, it's all about that, you know, that process and going through that. And, you know, that same day, just after Ben won, Finley Graham, who Mark knows well, who's a young Scottish lad who's ridden with Mark a few times, met him out on the road and hung on for dear life. You know, he won a silver on the track. So he was coming to the road with a medal in his back pocket already, but he had, you know, high hopes of winning the time trial as well, like Ben did, in the same category as Ben. And he unfortunately missed out on a bronze medal by 2 seconds. And I watched him come down the finishing straight. And as you can imagine, on a race circuit, it's a massive, long, wide finishing straight. And you can see the board ticking away with your time and where you're placed. And as he got closer and closer, it became really apparent that he just wasn't gonna, you know, he wasn't gonna make it in time. Those seconds were just ticking away just a little bit too fast for that day. And poor Finn was like, you could see him, he was trying to get every ounce of energy and power he could into his bike, and he was all over the place and fighting it. And, you know, unfortunately on the day it wasn't enough, and he got fourth. And so just as I'd kind of got myself together and stopped bawling my eyes out, Finn came back into the pit, of course, just devastated, you know, absolutely devastated. So then, you know, you've got to be that teammate and stick your arms around him and go, you know, hey mate, don't worry, you know, next time you'll get it. You know, it's all part of the process.
Steve, that's it. And that's what today's been about, is about being a team, being a community. And I'm going to jump in here because I've just seen Craig Little punch in the air. He grabbed a beer immediately. How are you, Craig? You've done the 240. Well done.
Yes. Oh, I'm hurting. That's 85 miles more than I've ever cycled in my life. So, yeah.
Well done. Well done. It's commendable. Good on you. You've had a great day. But just you caught my attention there when you were giving it the big the arms up and then the beer was so. No, well done. You deserve that. Incredible.
Yeah.
Good on you.
Well,
And where are you?
It's been awesome. It's been a great day.
It's been brilliant. Thanks for being with us. And where are you based?
In Aviemore.
You're up in Aviemore.
Yeah.
Good on you. Good on you. Well, here, take care. Rest up. Get some food in you. Have a good evening.
Here's all. Thank you.
See you later. Steve, I'm just going to check in with a few people because there's quite a few people still on screen, but a lot of them aren't necessarily cycling. Ross Duncan, are you going for 240? Are you over 240? Where are you?
Hey, man. No, I'm miles over 240. I'm actually training for an event that I run this year. So I'm actually at 300.
You're at 300.
So I'm actually going. Yeah, I'm going to 350 today. Then 4 hours off the bike, back on, another 350. Then hopefully I should have a very easy day on Monday and I hit 5,000 miles cycling for January.
Okay, so you're one of those crazies, Ross. You're one of those crazies.
Yeah.
Good on you.
Yeah, but that's all training for something that I will be doing for Doddy Aid. Well, not Doddy Aid, but
yeah,
the Doddy Foundation later on. So it's hard to get the base marathon now. So then I'll smash it later on.
What's that event? What's that challenge going to be?
That challenge will be something that I think Mark's held in the past.
Oh.
When he was doing it around the world. Record attempt. I should say, but
all right. Well, don't no pressure. You don't have to say anything.
No,
you don't have to
Rob knows about it. I'm going to try and better the current 7-day record. That was only just recently broken.
Well, let's get Mark. Mark, are you there? I don't know if Mark's on mute because it'd be good to get him in on this.
Yeah.
Mark, hello, Mr. Beaumont. Nicky, can you hear us? Mark,
he's on the cheese.
He's on the cheese. Look at him. I'll text him. So that just explain a bit more about that.
So I'm looking at for later on this year to raise money for the Doddy Foundation, possibly Chaz as well, and then aim to do the 7-day record just outside Dundee, where I was actually born. So I've already got routes laid up. I've actually spent the last couple of months planning this.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Mark, we've got Ross Duncan here, and he's training at the moment. He's over 300k in. He's going to bed for 4 hours, and he's going again, but he's training for the 7-day record.
All right. So what is that? Sorry, I missed that. Marcus was just heading out, but I missed what I fired it.
Yeah, it's the one that Josh quickly just set. And James Thompson set the year before.
Yeah, okay. Do you know what it's
I think it's over 2,200. But there's actually an unofficial one that I don't think a lot of people know about. And that's 2,400. That was set in Australia by, I'm going to bastardize his name, Christopher, the Australian guy who's raced across America sometimes.
Where are you planning to do your
outside Dundee?
Out of Dundee?
Yeah.
And what? So you're just going to do big loops every day?
Yeah, I've done a look and commute, and it should be 23 miles, 85 feet of climbing each lap.
So you basically just going along the car, so you're just going along towards Perth and back?
Yeah, near enough, yeah.
Amazing. And you're just literally going to do loop after loop after loop?
Yeah.
Right. Mad. Absolutely mad. It's phenomenal. But yeah. When are you planning this?
June.
Oh, June. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. June, then head down to do London, Edinburgh, London. Then I'm possibly heading over to Italy to do. Well, let's just say if I did the 14 Vieira thing, taking that the next step out in Italy, given all if COVID and travel restrictions are all away, to do some down there as well. Again, that'll be raising money for study aid.
Right.
So.
Well, I wish you well with the 1 week record. That's incredible. I briefly held the 1 month record. That was just as a part of that was the first month of the world. But the idea of doing, people often said to me, this is before Amanda Crocker, the Florida lady, broke the year record. People often said to me, when you have the right skill set to go for the old Tommy Godwin record, the 1939 record for the most mile cycle in a year. And I sort of said, well, I ride a bike because it can take me across countries and across continents. The idea of doing loops just to do miles for a year, I was like, it's just not why I ride a bike. I could just about get my head around what you're planning, which is a week. I get that. But once you make it a month or a year, you're just doing. So Amanda, who broke the year record, did exactly that. She did a flat loop around her home in Florida for a year. And I absolutely applaud her, but I cannot imagine anything worse. It's just not why I ride a bike. So, your efforts for a week, I can just about get my head around, but I still don't think I could do it.
Well, Ross, you've been cycling away all day. I wish you'd said something earlier. I'm so glad we finally caught you. Well done for all your efforts, and good luck when the event comes. That's incredible. Good man.
Are you doing the Doddy 500 this year?
Not really, just because I've done this 5,000 thing. So this year I've not slept at all month. So I kept working as well. So traveling in and out of work every single day. So
amazing.
Yeah. I need to speak to Rob, and I probably will meet up with you at Edinburgh and head down to the border with you, and then I'll need to head back up. But yeah, there's been talk of me joining a team, not joining a team and all that, but as I say, I've done this, so, and I've got other things planned later on in the year, so yeah.
Fantastic. Well, you're a huge supporter for Doddy Gump, as it was called, and you've done some massive rides and fundraising efforts, so brilliant, absolutely fantastic.
Yep.
Well done.
No problem.
Well done. All the best. I'm just looking around. Is there anyone? Give me a wave. Give me know if you're still heading for the 240. I'm not sure if there is. There's some great efforts there. Ian Clark's giving us a wave. How are you, Ian?
Not too bad. Stuffing a pizza down my throat at the moment.
Quite right.
I didn't quite manage the 240. It's been rather a strange day up here, to say the least, with a 3.5 hour power cut. And then got back on Zwift, and the power started flickering again, and my ride disappeared.
So your challenges.
It's been a challenging day. So
I'm feeding him.
I'm enjoying my pizza.
Quite right. Well deserved. Well deserved. I think there's going to be a lot of pizza, fish and chips. Davey said I think he was on the chops. No, well done, guys. Anyone else? I think we're coming to an end. I think if no one else is going for the 240. Well done to everybody. We've still got a few online. There's a few messages. coming in. Guys, I can't thank you enough. 240 miles done. Well done. Thanks, Davey and Mark, for inspiring me to complete this. I can't wait for next year. Gav Cooper, all done. Minor technical issues. Tagging out at 200 kilometers. That's Kath Monroe. So it's been a huge effort. People have gone way beyond what they thought they could achieve. And it's a big thanks to a lot of our guests. The guests have been fantastic. The riders who have joined me, the riders who haven't, the riders who have had their heads down the whole day just getting through the miles. I congratulate you. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you all on. And I'm just going to finish this up. We're going to just have a chat with Mark before we go and call it a night. Mark, I think you're there. I'll just get you.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, there you are. Mark, what a day.
It's been great. It's been great. And we had some new guests from last year. And there's been so many conversations over the last 6 weeks, figuring out, how we could bring it back to life and make it even bigger. And, I think we had more riders, more guests. I can't wait to see what the fundraising tally from today was. And it's been great fun. It takes a ton of energy to pull an event like this together. And I know everyone's focusing on their own ride and their own miles, but everyone that pulls it together behind the scenes, we're basically pulling on their goodwill because this is their day job. So the guy that builds the website, Ben, Gregor, and the team from Story Shop who do the communications. Got Keith in the studio there. This is their day job, which they could easily charge for, and they don't. So if you run a business yourself and you need good websites, good PR, podcast, event support, then do think of these guys because they give their time for an out for this, which is amazing. This isn't quite your day job, Nashi, but you seem to do a hell of a lot of it. It might as well be, and you're pretty damn good at it. So well done, sir.
Thank you, Mark. And if I can just echo that, I know the guys behind the scenes as well. An incredible effort. I mean, if people knew the amount of WhatsApp groups, I'm not in half of them, but the amount of WhatsApp messages, the amount of quick requests that go in that are answered and actioned and then posted or responded to so quickly, the attention to detail, the attention to just answering questions and taking care of things that need done, some mundane things, some little things, the small details, they're all taken care of by people's goodwill. And to you, Mark, thank you very much for putting this together. And as Rob said, it was actually the way he said it. Thanks for cycling around the world. Thanks for doing what you've done a couple of times and putting your body through the limit, because it's created this event and it's created an incredible community of riders. And there's still people listening. There's maybe still people watching live. So thank you. Thank you to Rob, Captain Davey, everyone that joined us today. But for the greater cause of the Doddy Aid Foundation. My name is Doddy. That's why we're here. So thank you for the donations. Thank you to everyone that shared, supported. Thank you to my family, to Abby, the kids, Granny. They've been here today. They've been helping me through this. And even though I'm sitting here on screen, this has been a family event for us. So thank you to everyone that's made this happen. Well done to all the riders. It wouldn't be possible without you. And from us, from me, thank you for everything. Have a good night. Everyone get your fuel in. Get in the cold water tomorrow, or do whatever it takes to get back to normal, because you deserve it. Have a safe journey home if you're traveling, and good night from me. Take care, everyone. Well done.
So clap your hands for Doddy, stomp your feet everybody, sing and cheer, let's Scotland here, we're doing it for Doddy. Here he goes again. Clap your Doddy. Stamp your feet, everybody. Sing and cheer, let Scotland hear. We're doing it for Doddy.
And Doddy, we are one of Scottish rugby's favourite sons.
His spirit is unbroken, his passion for his pride. It will be our victory when he is by our side. Tomorrow is a bonus point, the future is a try. We'll win this game, we'll fight this pain, he's the reason why.